Chapter 1956. The micro-array's 4 attacks were at the level of an enlighter, and with the smoke to protect his life and the new universal armor's protection, even a Limiter would be able to traverse the universe and even kill an enlighter. It was just like how Lu Yin had been able to kill an enlighter with his improved gun. However, it was still too little. 130 sets of the new universal armor could only equip 130 people, which was far too little. Right, Long Shi and the others. Chairman Ji went to monitor the micro-array, but before he left, Lu Yin asked him not to make things difficult for Wan Gong. Chairman Ji's reply reassured Lu Yin, as it wouldn't be easy to make things difficult for Wan Gong. Besides Wan Gong, no one else could create a complete micro-array, not even Chief Consultant Biao Zi. Lu Yin finally relaxed. Wan Gong wasn't stupid. When he had betrayed Earth, he had erased all traces of himself. He was a smart person, and he had known that his identity would be exposed the moment the microarray was completed. He had kept a backup plan and even Lu Yin had to protect him. After returning to his residence, Lu Yin took out Mount Supreme and entered to find Long Shi. Long Shi and the others had been trapped for many years and were used to it, so they weren't surprised to see Lu Yin. Lu Yin felt apologetic every time he saw Long Shi, or rather apprehensive. He had played her for a fool and she had even taught him a lesson and cared for him. Most importantly, she had experienced the era of the 7 heroes and was an old friend. She even seemed to have a crush on him. This made Lu Yin feel very conflicted, and he had never dared to reveal his identity. "How have you been? Any breakthroughs in your cultivation?" Lu Yin asked. Long Shi looked at him calmly. "What's the matter? Just say it." Lu Yin pursed his lips. "I heard that the Astral Tree Society has a mysterious white paper. Do you have any?" Long Shi waved a hand and a stack of white paper was placed on the ground. Lu Yin's eyes lit up as there were over 100 of them. "That's all." Long Shi looked at him strangely. "These white papers aren't very useful. We just have some just in case. Do you need a lot?" Lu Yin nodded. "No," Long Shi replied calmly. Lu Yin was speechless and turned to leave. "Wait," Long Shi said. Lu Yin turned around. Long Shi stared at him. "Your aura changed. Did you break through to become an emissary?" "Not bad." He didn't want to show off in front of others, but for some reason he wanted to show off in front of Long Shi. Long Shi sized Lu Yin up. "You were able to deal with an emissary back then. How strong are you now?" Lu Yin smiled. "I can probably beat up someone who has undergone 4 or 5 tribulations of origin." Long Shi frowned. "You can leave now." "You don't believe me?" Lu Yin raised his brows. "I'm not lying to you. Even if your father Long Ku is here, he might not be able to do anything to me." Long Shi's gaze wavered. Long Ku, his father, he probably wouldn't be able to see him in this lifetime. Thinking of this, Long Shi's calm state of mind was shattered, and she glared at Lu Yin with anger. Lu Yin was stumped for a moment, but then he smiled sheepishly. "Well, you continue, I'm leaving." He quickly left. Strange, why was Long Shi angry? Why was he panicking? Was it because of Long Seven's experience that traumatized him? He was just a housekeeper. Other than Long Shi, there was also the #1 scholar Prince Gui Qian Yun Tingting and Lu Hao. Through these people he had collected more than 400 pieces of paper, which wasn't much since Bai Xiaohong alone had given him more than 200. It was a pity. If he had known that this would happen, he would have frantically collected more pieces of paper in the cosmic tree. He would have been able to sell them for a high price. He had given more than 400 pieces of paper to Chairman Ji so that he could make another 80 sets of the new universal armor, which would add up to 210 sets. It wasn't much, but it was still acceptable. Right, there was also Lu Yefei. Lu Yin was filled with anticipation as he contacted Mr. Lu Yi. At the same time, in the blazing mist flow zone, on a planet not far from the Ross Empire's stronghold, Lu Yefei and Lu Yefei were sitting in a revolving restaurant surrounded by the boundless ocean. This revolving restaurant was the planet's most luxurious restaurant. "Have you thought it through? If you look for Lu Yin again, it won't be that easy to leave. So many experts were mobilized during that war in the Outerverse, and with our strength, we might not even rank in the top 3 in the Great Eastern Alliance," Fifi said as she took a sip of her drink. Across from them, Mr. Lu Yi gazed at the ocean with a complicated expression. It wasn't that he wanted to look for Lu Yin, but rather that it was his destiny. On the Astral River arc he had no recollection of mentioning Lu Yin at all. However, Fifi was certain that he had mentioned Lu Yin, and she had even praised him and threatened to follow him. This made Mr. Lu Ye's hair stand on end, and he hurriedly checked the Astral River Arc surveillance, only to discover that Lu Yin had really been mentioned. At that moment, Mr. Lu Ye's entire body turned cold, and he couldn't figure out what had happened. He had no memories of that moment, and it was as if he had become a completely different person. Fifi had asked him many times, but he had fooled her by saying that he had temporarily lost his memories. In reality, he truly had no recollection of that moment. Ever since then, Mr. Lu Ye's soul had left his body, and he had been thinking about that moment every day. What kind of existence was Lu Yin? How could he have caused such a change in him? Who had been in control of his body at that moment? The more Mr. Lu Yi thought about it, the more terrified he became and the more he couldn't understand. In the end, he decided to follow what he had said at that moment and submit to Lu Yin. It wasn't for his future or to return to the Cosmic Tree Arc, but rather to find the truth. If he wanted to find out the truth, he could only get close to Lu Yin. Did you hear what I said? Fifi was unhappy and she raised her voice, causing many people to look over. Mr. Lu Yi was stunned. What did you say? Fifi snorted and looked at the sea. Do whatever you want. At that moment their gadgets rang. The two looked over at the same time. Lu Yin. They looked at each other and saw the shock in each other's eyes. Ever since they had left Lu Yin's side, they had not contacted each other much. Why had Lu Yin suddenly contacted them? Fifi was puzzled, but Mr. Lu Yi felt a chill run down his spine. He thought about that strange moment and beads of sweat dripped down his forehead. What's wrong? Answer the call, Fifi urged. Regardless of whether or not they had submitted to Lu Yin, she did not want to offend this person. The Great Eastern Alliance was enormous, but the most important thing was that this person had undergone an origin tribulation and caused the entire astral source universe to boil over. This was too inconceivable. They were more knowledgeable than many people from the Fifth Mainland and they knew what this meant. If nothing unexpected happened, Lu Yin had a 99% chance of becoming a progenitor in the future. It was best not to offend someone like this. Actually, all she wanted was freedom and living in seclusion was good enough. Mr. Lu Yi took a deep breath and accepted the call. Alliance Master Lu. Lu Yin's voice came through. Mr. Lu Yi, I'm sorry to disturb you. Mr. Lu Yi forced a smile. Alliance Master Lu, you're welcome. What's the matter? I'd like to ask if Mr. Lu Yi has any paper. Mr. Lu was surprised. Mr. Lu Yi was astonished and looked at Sister Fei Hua. Paper? Yes, I need paper. The more the better. You can buy it from Mr. Lu Yi. Mr. Lu Yi was confused as he did not know what Lu Yin wanted paper for. In this region of space, most people traveled by spacecraft, which was very comfortable. However, at Lu Yin's level, he could directly travel through the void and did not need paper. I do. How much does Alliance Master Lu want? The more the better. Lu Yin was pleasantly surprised. Mr. Lu Yi said, I have more than 300 here. He then looked at Fifi. Fifi replied, I have more than 200. Alliance Master Lu, we have more than 500 here. That's great. Lu Yin was delighted. Where is Mr. Lu Yi? I'll send someone to get it. Mr. Lu Yi asked, where is Alliance Master Lu? We can give it to you. Within the Aurora Fort, Lu Yin was stunned. Give it to me? Mr. Lu Ye's voice rang out. I just happen to have something to discuss with Alliance Master Lu. Lu Yin replied, that's great. I'm at the Aurora Fort in the Neoverse. Alright, we'll hurry over as soon as possible. Alliance Master Lu, see you at the Aurora Fort. He then hung up. Lu Yin was puzzled. Why was this Mr. Lu Yi so enthusiastic? And he was even sending it over? This was completely different from when he had been so eager to leave Lu Yin. Could it be that the fusion had been effective? Did Mr. Lu Yi really want to rely on Lu Yin? After thinking about it, Lu Yin felt that it was absurd. He could only enter someone's body to check their memories and control them for a short period of time, but he could not change that person's thoughts. Lu Yi and Fifi would rather stay as far away from him as possible, so why would they rely on him? But what exactly were they planning? While waiting for the Aurora Fort to develop a new universal armor, he also waited for Mr. Lu Yi. Lu Yin estimated that he would have to stay here for at least a month, so it was time to roll his die and upgrade some things. The 7 courts had a bountiful harvest with power vessels and resources. It would be a pity not to upgrade them. After having the second Night King stand guard, Lu Yin announced that he was going into seclusion. When the second Night King heard that Lu Yin was going into seclusion, he was disdainful. Other people, even explorers, would normally spend at least a few years in seclusion. Lu Yin, on the other hand, had come out in just a few days. How could this be called seclusion? Lu Yin's seclusion was already a major characteristic of the Great Eastern Alliance. Lu Yin looked up and saw his die appear, slowly spinning. He tapped it, as it did not matter whether he rolled enhance or enhance. It all depended on fate. The die slowly stopped at enhance. The scene in front of Lu Yin changed and he appeared in the time-stop space. Here he would definitely be able to roll a enhance. Once, twice, and on his third try Lu Yin rolled a enhance. Lu Yin looked at the two screens and the first thing he wanted to upgrade was that needle. It was said that it had killed a half-ancestor before. He did not have a suitable weapon on him and he urgently needed a powerful one. He placed the needle on the upper screen and threw in 100 million crystal essence. The needle then dropped down a tiny bit, almost imperceptibly. Lu Yin blinked. At this rate, wouldn't a complete upgrade cost over 100 billion crystal essence? Why was it so exaggerated? Lu Yin hurriedly put the needle away as he did not have that much money to upgrade it. He now had another great upgrade tool in his cosmic ring. Previously it had been Mount Supreme, the Extreme Ice Stone, and the Formcast model. Now there was an additional needle. He did not have the money to upgrade the needle, so he took out the Time Withering Wood. It had the word time on it, and it was also a power vessel of the Ku family, so it should not be simple. Chapter 1957. Lu Yin tossed the Time Withering Wood onto the upper screen and then began to crazily smash star essence into it. Even though he didn't know what the oldest piece of time-withered wood that Ancestor Ku had left behind was, it didn't stop him from looking forward to it. Ancestor Ku was one of the 9 mountains and 8 seas, and he was a ruthless person who had dared to charge at the Eternals alone. The more silent a person was, the more ruthless they were. The time-withering wood could be upgraded, but the cost was ridiculous. The first upgrade had already consumed 6 billion star essence. It was understandable. The Ku family had said that this time-dead wood was the closest to the one left behind by the desolate ancestor, and it had existed for the longest time. It could withstand an attack with a power level of 1 million. To be able to withstand an attack with a combat power of 1 million, it was understandable that it would consume so much energy. Lu Yin did not hesitate to upgrade it again, but this time he spent 10 billion star essence. At this moment the aged withered would seemed to have changed a little. The void around it was distorted and it was a little blurry. Lu Yin didn't know what kind of power level it could withstand or what other effects it had. Originally he wanted to upgrade it again, but after thinking about it he gave up. If he upgraded it again he wouldn't be able to upgrade anything else. Next was the sticks. Right now what he lacked the most were offensive treasures. He already had the medicine skin and time-dead wood as defensive treasures. The Styx River could be used to escape, so it was quite useful. Lu Yin looked at the Styx, which was just a small river that was a few meters long. It was actually a power vessel. The universe was vast and there were all sorts of mystical things. As long as he stood on it, he would be able to travel a great distance in an instant. In fact, it wasn't just for escaping. It could also be used as a means of transportation. The only problem was that he couldn't control where he landed. If he landed right in front of the enemy, he would be finished. Dark River had been upgraded a total of 3 times, which had consumed a total of 26 billion star essence, which was quite painful. After some calculations he realized that he still had less than 20 billion star essence left in his cosmic ring. He had consumed them too quickly, but he had only upgraded 2 things. He didn't even have 20 billion star essence, but he wasn't in a hurry to upgrade anything else. Next up was tear dust, which didn't cost too much. Of course, that was only when compared to the time-withering wood. Lu Yin had upgraded the teardrop dust he had obtained from the first city 11 times, which had consumed 2 billion star essence. Hui Kong had given him twice as much teardrop dust as he had obtained from the first city, which meant that he would only need 4 billion star essence to upgrade to the same level as the teardrop dust. When had he ever thought that 4 billion star essence was too little? He discovered that his consumption of star essence was simply too great, and no one would believe him if he told them about it. If he didn't have the money to improve, then he would cultivate. Lu Yin recited the primogenitor's scripture and began to practice the serious art. In the Innerverse, the Northline flow zone was not too far from the Blazing Mist flow zone. There was still less than a month before the Northline Flow Zone's Northgate Platform competition. The Northgate Platform contest was held once every 15 years. However, due to the separation of the Innerverse and Outerverse, the Sixth Mainland's attack, the Great Eastern Alliance's invasion and many other matters, the Northgate Platform contest had been delayed. The Northgate family, Lily family and Barth Jacques family were currently having a secret meeting. Every time the Northgate Platform competition is held, we always invite important figures to attend. Northgate family chief, who are you planning to invite this time? Barth Jacques family's patriarch Hoba asked. Behind him stood Harrow. His other successor, Barnicho, had died during the Sixth Mainland's invasion. As for the Scarlet Mercenary group that was employed by the Barth Jacques family, half of them had died. The head of the Lily family, Lily Liana, also looked at Northgate Kong curiously. Lily Ann and Lily Shuer were standing behind her. Northgate Kong solemnly replied, Ku Wei of the Great Eastern Alliance. Lily Liana and Hoba were shocked. Even Northgate Lai, who was standing behind Northgate Kong, was shocked. Ku Wei? That bootlicker? Lily Liana was flabbergasted. Northgate Kong nodded. Don't underestimate him. Although he's a bootlicker, he's from the Seven Courts Ku family. He's very powerful at such a young age, and I don't know why he's able to command the Giant Legion. He's also Lu Yin's disciple, so it's appropriate to invite him to attend the competition. Hoba replied, I know this person. He's arrogant, but he has the ability to be arrogant. During the Sovereign Tournament, even if he wasn't as strong as the 10 arbiters, he was still quite strong. He fought to the first level and lost to Wang Yi. Although he's a bootlicker, that's only towards Lu Yin. He's arrogant to everyone else and doesn't hold back at all. Northgate family chief, how did you manage to invite him? Northgate Kong replied, he likes to be in the limelight. As the most dazzling guest of the Northgate Platform competition, it wasn't difficult to invite him. Most importantly, during the previous Northgate Platform competition, Lu Yin was the one who represented the 10 Arbiters Council. Since his master was there, he naturally wanted to go as well. It would be great if we could invite Lu Yin to attend the competition, Lily Liana sighed. Hoba laughed. Lu Yin? What kind of status was that? How could he possibly come to a tiny Northline Flow Zone to attend the competition? Forget about the Northgate Platform competition, he might not even be interested in the internal struggles of the 8 Great Flow Zones. Where's Ah Fan? Northgate Kong suddenly asked. Lily Liana replied, he's taking the students from Shanggu Academy to train. Ah Fan was originally just a normal student from Shanggu Academy and wasn't worth their attention. However, Ah Fan had managed to get close to Lu Yin and had a special status in the Northline Flow Zone. Let him host the Northgate Platform competition this time, Northgate Kong said. The other 2 families did not object. After the meeting ended, Lily Ann met with Lily Liana alone. Mother, you were looking for me? Lily Liana looked at Lily Ann apologetically. Do you still remember the gift I promised you? Lily Ann was confused and thought for a moment. Fateson. Lily Liana nodded and took out a box from her cosmic ring. She solemnly opened it, revealing a grain of Fateson. Lily Ann was delighted. Mother, how did you find this? This was a precious treasure that was difficult to find even for the leading powers of the 8 Great Flow Zones, let alone a small family like the Lily family. Lily Liana replied, I didn't find it. It was Xiaoyi. Xiaoyi? Isn't she dead? Lilian did not understand. Lily Liana's eyes flashed. Xiaoyi brought it out of burial garden. She died not long after returning to the family. Lilian stared at the fates and in the box, the face of a stubborn girl appearing in her mind. Xiaoyi was one of the many adopted daughters of Lily Liana. She had been the most diligent, but she had never expected to die. I remember that she finally returned to the family half a month ago. Although she was heavily injured, she shouldn't have died. Lily Liana replied, You don't have to worry about that. Anyway, you obtained this Fateson from burial garden with great difficulty, and you brought it back because you wanted to give it to Lu Yin. Lilian did not understand. Lily Liana did not want to meet Lily Ann's gaze and solemnly said, Do you remember? Lilian looked at Lily Liana and then back at the Fateson. She seemed to have thought of something and her face paled. Mother Xiaoyi, there's no such person. From the moment she died, there was no such person in the Lily family. You were the one who obtained the Fates and from burial garden with great difficulty. The Great Eastern Alliance has been collecting it all this time, and when Lu Yin returns, you will personally give it to him. This is the best opportunity for our Lily family to establish ties with him. Remember, Lily Liana said in an unpleasant tone. Lily Ann nodded silently. I understand. Lily Liana watched Lily Ann leave with a bitter expression. For the family and for her daughter, she was willing to sacrifice anything. The Fates and was supposed to be a gift for Lily Ann, but it was not her who had wanted to give it to her, but rather Xiaoyi. The two of them had a very close relationship, and Xiaoyi had risked her life to escape from the Innerverse Western Flow Zone for the sake of the Fateson. But how could this sisterly love compare to the family business? Xiaoyi, don't blame me. Lily Ann arrived at a courtyard in a daze. A stubborn girl had once lived here. Although her innate talent had not been high, she had still persisted in her cultivation. The two of them had grown up together, but in the end they had been separated by life and death. The Fateson in her hands had become scalding hot, to the point that Lily Ann could no longer hold it. If not for the Great Eastern Alliance collecting it, Xiaoyi would not have died. Xiaoyi would personally give this gift to Lily Ann with a beautiful smile. She looked up at the sky with a complicated expression. The young man she had met by chance was now standing at the peak of the clouds. In order to meet him, countless people had sacrificed countless precious things. This was power. One day she would also reach such heights and make everyone look up to her for herself and for Xiaoyi. Beep 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 beep. Her gadget beeped and Lily Ann glanced at it. Her expression changed and she hurriedly returned. Lily Liana was currently in her study, looking at the screen in front of her with a grave expression. Lily Ann returned and looked at the screen as well. On the screen a spacecraft had exploded. That spacecraft belonged to Shanggu Academy, and there were several corpse kings attacking the instructors from Shanggu Academy. Many of them had already fallen to the ground and died. The screen continued to tilt, occasionally looking in another direction. There was also the sound of heavy breathing. Evidently, the person who had recorded this scene was fleeing and was getting further and further away from the spacecraft. There was a loud boom as the spacecraft exploded. Many students from Shanggu Academy were incinerated and died miserable deaths. The instructors had also died tragically. Only one person had managed to escape and push the corpse king away with a single palm strike. That was the combination of overlaying stacks and battle force. Countless people had seen this scene before. It was Lu Yin's standard battle technique, but now it was being used by another person. It was this palm strike that forced the corpse king back, allowing the person to escape. He looked back at the spacecraft and said, "I'm sorry, I can't teach you battle techniques. I'm sorry." At the end of the video was a pair of scarlet eyes that were getting closer and closer to the person who had recorded the video. It was obvious that this person would not have a good ending either. It was just a short video and there was nothing special about it. There were too many such incidents in the universe, but because one of them was a corpse king, it had attracted a lot of attention. Only Fan escaped, Lily Liana said in a low voice. Lily Ann heaved a sigh of relief. It's good that Fan escaped. When did this happen? Lily Liana looked at Lily Ann. Not long ago. This video wasn't that big of a deal. More than 1,000 people from Shanggu Academy die every year. After all, there's no such thing as absolute safety in the world of cultivation. However, this video has gone viral on the internet and countless people are arguing about it. Take a look for yourself. Lillian was surprised. What was there to quarrel about with such a video? Chapter 1958. Lillian turned on her gadget and took a look. Currently, the most popular video on the internet was not the video itself, but the words that Fan had said before he escaped. "I'm sorry, but I can't teach you battle techniques. I'm sorry." These words caused an uproar among countless people, as they believed that if the instructors and students of Shanggu Academy had learned Fan's battle techniques, they would not have died so tragically. This conjecture caused the entire internet to follow suit. This was especially true for the independent cultivators who went crazy. If they had battle techniques and resources, they would not be doing so poorly. Countless people hoped that the various sects would share some battle techniques for them to learn instead of keeping them to themselves. More and more people joined in, and some people even uploaded videos of tragic deaths. Some had been killed by corpse kings, some had been killed by astral beasts, and some had died due to celestial phenomena. Every video was followed by a discussion. If these people had learned some battle techniques, then they would not have died. If these people had some resources, then they would not have died either. In a short period of time, it was as if the entire Fifth Mainland had joined in the discussion. Some disciples from the powerful sects also joined in the discussion and refuted these comments. After all, the battle techniques belonged to the sects themselves, and there was no need to share them. Some disciples from the powerful sects even ridiculed these independent cultivators for being useless and only coveting the strength of others. Now the entire internet was discussing this matter, and there were too many people participating in the discussion. Many independent cultivators had joined together in hopes that the Hall of Honor and the various sects would share some battle techniques, even if they were from outer sect disciples. The Great Eastern Alliance was also used as a comparison. After all, Fan had relied on Lu Yin's battle techniques to escape. Overlaying stacks and battle force were Lu Yin's techniques, and Fan's last words had been directed at Lu Yin for not teaching others. Lu Yin had become the topic of discussion. Mother, this. Lillian did not understand. Lily Liana solemnly replied, "It's very serious." Fan's last words were directed at Lu Yin. Many people on the internet have attributed the deaths of the Shanggu Academy students to Lu Yin's self-preservation. If Lu Yin blames them, then our Northline flow zone will be in trouble as well. Lily Ann's face paled. Then what should we do? Is someone targeting us? Using Fan to plot against Lu Yin? Lily Liana shook her head. It's hard to say, but there's definitely someone guiding him. Right now all we can do is wait and see. Also, mobilize the entire Northline flow zone to speak up for Lu Yin. We have to suppress this matter. The Northline flow zone was overthinking things, as it was impossible for them to suppress this matter. Even the entire Innerverse would not be able to do so, as this matter had spread far and wide, and it had even attracted the attention of the entire Fifth Mainland. More and more videos were being uploaded onto the internet, most of them showing cultivators dying at the hands of the Neo-Human Alliance. One after another, it was a ghastly sight. Neoverse, Jia Mountain, Star Alliance, Great World. Zijing looked at the scenery outside the Great World with a calm expression. Xianxia arrived. Director Zijing, why didn't the Interstellar Alliance network curb such comments? Zijing looked at Xianxia. There's no way to stop them. You can delete their comments, but can you delete their thoughts? Xianxia frowned. Even so, we can't allow you to be slandered. The great sects and organizations didn't get to where they are today for nothing. Their ancestors have experienced life and death situations, so why should we let outsiders take advantage of them? These comments are already too much. Zijing looked outside again. Times have changed. Those ordinary cultivators might want to take advantage of the situation and share their battle techniques, but we can just ignore them. They can't change the situation, so they can only vent their anger. However, you and I both know that humanity is facing a crisis. The crisis outside the Starfall Sea is getting closer and closer, and if humanity is destroyed, these battle techniques will disappear into history. What do you mean? Xianxiao did not understand. Zijing's lips curled up. The essence of humanity is to pass down their legacies. Only by passing down their legacies can they become stronger. Xianxiao shook her head. No one will agree with your thinking. Even the Hall of Honor would not share their battle techniques for no reason. Zijing did not reply, and she just looked outside quietly. Over the next few days, the internet was in an uproar. Countless people were shouting and begging for battle techniques to be shared. More and more videos were released and many people were moved, but the great sects and organizations remained unmoved. They had not relied on charity from others to reach their current level, but rather on their own. No one could say that they were wrong. It was not as if there had never been a powerhouse among the independent cultivators. Ku Pu snorted disdainfully at the discussions on the internet. Back then, Ku Pu had not only been an independent cultivator, but he had also been despised by them. Had he not reached the progenitor realm and wanted them to share their battle techniques? What a joke. However, Ku Pu looked at the countless comments directed at Lu Yin and his eyes flickered. No one knew what he was thinking. At Aurora Fort, Lu Yin exited seclusion 10 days later. The second Night King's expression changed. Sure enough, it hadn't even been half a month. How could this be considered seclusion? Lu Yin had cultivated his serious art to 38,000 stars in the time's top space, but he had not gone into seclusion after that and had only rested for a while. He was very clear about what had happened in the outside world. Over the past few days, his gadget had been flooded with calls. Countless people had tried to contact him, but he had not answered any of them. After exiting seclusion, the first person he contacted was Elder Chan. "What do you think about the discussions on the internet?" Lu Yin asked. On Realm Mountain, Elder Chan replied, "The Hall of Honor will announce some battle techniques for ordinary cultivators to share. Don't worry." "Is there really no need to worry?" Lu Yin's voice grew deeper. "If this were a peaceful era, I wouldn't care and no one would care. However, the Starfall Sea is in danger, and although these people are trying to take advantage of us, some of their words are not without reason. If the mentors and students on that spacecraft all knew Afan's battle techniques, then even if not all of them could escape, at least a few more would have been able to. Perhaps there would have been envoys, half-progenitors or even progenitors among them. No one can say for sure when it comes to opportunities." "Then what do you want to do?" Elder Chan asked. Lu Yin took a deep breath. "I didn't think about this before, but now I want to try something that I can imitate my ancestors' methods. I remember that someone once said that in the most ancient times, the 6 continents were plagued by disasters, and it was difficult for humans to survive. Thus, the legendary ancestors established the Daoist sect and spread their teachings. Although I, Lu Yin, am far from being comparable to them, I am willing to try." Elder Chan's eyes widened. "What do you want to do?" Lu Yin answered seriously, "I want to put everything that I have learned in one place. Everyone can try to go there, learn from it, and challenge it. If they succeed, they can obtain everything that I once had and use it to teach the cultivators of the 5th mainland so that more people can learn more battle techniques." Elder Chan was shocked. "You're willing?" "In peacetime I definitely wouldn't be willing, but right now there's no other way. If the Eternals invade and the humans maintain their current strength, I really can't think of any way to win. Senior, the humans have always been on the other side of the astral tree domain. If not for the limitless power of the sourcebox array, we would have been defeated long ago. If the astral tree domain is already in such a state, then the 5th mainland is even worse. Of course, I would also like to ask the Hall of Honor to contribute some battle techniques and even secret techniques." "All right, as long as you're willing, the Hall of Honor will naturally contribute," Elder Chan barked. As the master of the Hall of Honor, Elder Chan considered the entire 5th mainland and the entire human race. In the past, no one had ever reached his level, but now Lu Yin had the same thoughts as him. Regardless of the motives of the people on the internet, they should indeed increase the strength of the entire human race in order to deal with the Eternals' future calamity. "Senior, many of my battle techniques come from various large sections. If I want to share them, I'm afraid that they won't be happy," Lu Yin said. Elder Chan frowned. "I know, tell them to come find me." At Aurora Fort, Lu Yin smiled. "Then I'll have to trouble Senior. I've thought about it and I'll call that place the 5th Pagoda." He then hung up. Elder Chan fell into deep thought. The 5th Pagoda? The 5th mainland's Tower of Inheritance. Elsewhere, Lu Yin contacted Wang Wen. "How was it? Did Afan do well?" Wang Wen asked proudly. Lu Yin replied, "Not bad. Those people from Shanggu Academy have to hide well. They can't be exposed." "Don't worry," Wang Wen said. The Corpse King's attack on Shanggu Academy had been part of Wang Wen's show from beginning to end. His goal had been to draw out the discussions on the internet and push Lu Yin to the heart of the storm, successfully drawing out his conversation with Elder Chan. Elder Chan had a good impression of Lu Yin because he had taken the initiative to take over the war against the Astral Beast domain. This time, Lu Yin had sacrificed everything he had for the greater good of humanity. Once the astral trees attacked in the future and tried to force the 5th mainland to hand him over, no one would dare suggest handing him over. Even if Elder Chan and the others wanted to hand him over, they couldn't say anything. Whoever did would go down in history and infamy. Of course, this was just a side effect. Lu Yin's true goal was to take the initiative. He didn't want to leave his fate in the hands of others. If the astral trees attacked and the 5th mainland couldn't handle the pressure and wanted to hand him over, he would take the 5th pagoda with him. Not only did the tower contain the battle techniques that he had contributed, it also contained the people who had learned them. The Ku family, the Sword sect, the Su family and the Wen family. Who wouldn't want to go? Those who could go were all direct descendants and he would take them all with him. Let's see who would still want to hand him over. This was just what he wanted at the moment. The entire 5th mainland would be attracted to the inheritance within the 5th pagoda, and the Hall of Honor would be the proof. Everyone would believe that anyone who could enter the 5th pagoda to learn the inheritance was a genius. These geniuses were equivalent to an entire generation of the 5th mainland. If he took them all with him, the fifth mainland would have a gap which would be far worse than the war with the astral trees. This was his initiative, but it wasn't enough. The human civil war would only benefit the Eternals, so he had to find a way to pull them in. There was also the astral beast domain. You can't really be thinking of sharing those battle techniques, right? Rather than benefiting others, why not benefit me first? Wang Wen teased. Lu Yin smiled. There are some things that others won't be able to learn even if I wanted to. But to be honest, the Eternals are in grave danger. I'm willing to share some battle techniques as a catalyst. Perhaps others will be willing to contribute as well and increase the strength of humanity as a whole. You sound like a savior. Wang Wen rolled his eyes. Chapter 1959. Lu Yin casually replied, I'm not some savior. I'm just doing what I can. Humanity's fate depends on itself, and so does my life. No matter how much I do for the fifth mainland, no one will appreciate it in the end. It's good that you know that. Human nature is complicated, so don't expect people to be grateful for their entire lives. There are people who know how to be grateful, but it all depends on your judgment. Will Elder Chan be grateful to you? Who knows? I don't want to reach the final step. Let's begin. It's your turn to perform. You must design the fifth pagoda well, and I'll give you the materials, Lu Yin said solemnly. This was related to whether or not they could trap the people in the fifth pagoda at the final step. It was very important. Wang Wen smiled. Don't worry. Also, whether you're a savior or not, I'll make sure everyone sees you as one. Your Highness chess piece, just wait for countless people to erect a monument for you. He then hung up. Lu Yin put down his gadget. With Wang Wen handling these matters, he felt reassured. After ending the call, Lu Yin went to look for Zhidong. Zhidong and the rest did not care about what was happening in the outside world, as they were all focused on creating microarrays. This was the Aurora Corporation's long-cherished wish, and it had finally been realized. Even though Lu Yin's interference meant that they were only working part-time, this did not stop them from fervently researching microarrays. Master Xian was more tired as he was constantly setting up sourcebox arrays on top of microarrays. Even a real Yuan formation master could not take it anymore. Creating a microarray was not complicated, especially since the Aurora Corporation had made many preparations in the early stages. Once the core materials were found, it was basically an assembly line. Zhidong watched as a cultivator experimented with microarrays, and his eyes lit up. This technology would eventually change humanity, and his name would be recorded in the annals of history. How many have you made? Lu Yin asked from behind. Zhidong was surprised. You're done? So soon? Lu Yin replied, that's normal. How many microarrays have I made? Zhidong felt uncomfortable when he heard this. He felt uncomfortable when he thought about how most of the microarrays would be given to Lu Yin. A few dozen. What about the new universal armor? Lu Yin asked. Zhidong replied, I'm not sure. I handed it over to Elder Biao. You can ask him. Lu Yin said, help me develop it as soon as possible. Another batch of materials have arrived. Zhidong was delighted. Tree bark? Paper. Zhidong was disappointed. What a pity. If only it was tree bark. Tree bark is very difficult to obtain, so don't even think about it for now. You'll be lucky if you have some paper, Lu Yin said. He wanted to obtain tree bark as well, as there were too many trees in the cosmic astral tree. Bark from the mother tree often fell off, and any random cultivator in the cosmic astral tree would have some paper in their cosmic rings. Those were all made from tree bark, and just thinking about it made Lu Yin's heart ache. How many? Chairman Ji asked. Lu Yin replied, about 500, and I'll leave the rest for you guys to study. I want 100 microarrays. Chairman Ji frowned and looked at Lu Yin. He wanted to say something, but in the end he didn't say anything. Lu Yin knew what he was thinking. Although the microarray technology had been successfully developed, only the Aurora Corporation could mass-produce it. No one else, not even the technocracy, would be able to do so. The Aurora Corporation had made too many preparations and had too much data to work with. It was unrealistic to expect the Aurora Spaceship Company to work for him. How is the remuneration calculated? Give me a total price. Chairman Ji's eyes flashed. Tell me where the tree bark came from, and the Aurora Corporation can make microarrays for you for free for a period of time. We'll make as many as you can provide during that time. Why don't you ask Elder Jioshan? Lu Yin was curious. Chairman Ji shook his head. If my ancestors were still around, they could talk to Elder Zhou Xian, but I can only ask them for help. Elder Zhou Xian won't say much to me. Lu Yin understood that the older generation was proud and arrogant, especially someone like Elder Zhou Xian who was good at protecting himself. Although he wasn't a bad person, he didn't want to talk to cultivators with low cultivation. Alright, 5 years. I'll provide the materials for 5 years and you'll make microarrays for me for free. I won't be half-hearted and I'll tell you where the tree bark came from and how to obtain it. 2 years, Chairman Ji said seriously. You want the Aurora Corporation to work for you for just one piece of information? 2 years is a long time. Then forget it. I'll continue to provide the materials and you can calculate the remuneration. Lu Yin turned to leave. Chairman Ji was speechless. That's it? He was a businessman and was used to haggling with others, but Lu Yin was different. Only Lu Yin could tell him this information. This was a monopoly. In the end, Chairman Ji relented and agreed to help Lu Yin make microarrays for free for 5 years. Of course, Lu Yin had to provide the materials and the Aurora Corporation couldn't do it for him. The mother tree. That tree bark comes from the mother tree, Lu Yin said. Chairman Ji was confused. What mother tree? Lu Yin knew that the man didn't understand. No matter how rich or influential Chairman Ji was, there were some things that he didn't know. Even a powerhouse with a power level in the millions might not know about the mother tree. Lu Yin introduced the mother tree to the Daoist sect and also mentioned the war between the 6th and 5th mainlands. Only then did Chairman Ji know what the mother tree was. Then you said that there's a way to obtain it? Chairman Ji asked anxiously. Lu Yin said, Elder Chan, go find Elder Chan. He can send you to the cosmic tree. That's the way. Chairman Ji's face twitched as he felt like he had been played by Lu Yin. He didn't even know what the mother tree was, so how could he ask Elder Chan to send him to the cosmic tree? If what Lu Yin said was true, then the cosmic tree was far more powerful than the 5th mainland. What was the point of going there? After leaving the microarrays department, Lu Yin found Chief Consultant Elder Biao and asked about the progress of the new universal armor. He learned that the new universal armor had already been successfully developed. After all, the armor design that little Leo had given Lu Yin only needed to be modified slightly since it was already a finished product. Lu Yin immediately contacted Chairman Ji and asked him to work on the universal armor together with the microarrays. What he needed was a finished product that could fuse microarrays and smoke together and allow cultivators to wear it in battle. Suddenly, Lu Yin thought of something and contacted Banjiu. Create a virtual combat system as soon as possible, Lu Yin ordered. He wanted to create a game that would allow people to wear the new universal armor in the virtual space and continuously practice in the game. Otherwise, he wouldn't have so many microarrays in the real world. For Banjiu, this wasn't a problem and was very easy to create. It'll take 10 days at most, Banjiu promised. Lu Yin ended the call and looked to the west. The cosmic tree was eyeing him covetously and time was running out. Everything had to be done quickly. The discussions on the internet were still boiling over and they were becoming more and more intense. Even if the various large sects participated in the suppression, they couldn't stop the discussions from spreading throughout the universe. Independent cultivators were always at a disadvantage when faced with powerful sects, and they desperately wanted to make a comeback. This was a rare opportunity and the Hall of Honor was even willing to share a portion of their battle techniques. Under these circumstances, the Great Eastern Alliance made an announcement that shocked the entire 5th mainland, including the 6th mainland and the Astral Beast domain. In order to increase the overall combat power of the human race, the Hall of Honor's director and Great Eastern Alliance leader, Lu Yin, will construct the 5th pagoda in the Cosmic Sea to store the inheritance that will be available for all humans to study, explore and research. This announcement caused the 5th mainland to boil over. The scale of the 5th pagoda's construction and the items that would be passed down were also included in the announcement. Everyone in the universe who saw this announcement stared at the blueprint of the 5th pagoda in shock. The 5th pagoda had a total of 9 floors and each floor contained battle techniques, cultivation techniques, resources, power vessels and so on. The further one went, the more items were added. Now that the information had been confirmed, many people were shocked. The first floor contained the 30 stacks cultivation method, battle force cultivation experiences, and introductions regarding tribulation crystals, battle force levels, domain levels and so on. The core inheritance was the serious techniques first layer. The second floor contained insights on domain cultivation, the 50 stacks cultivation method, and the core inheritance was the first sword of the sword sect's 13 swords. The 13 swords were not something that just anyone could learn, and the first sword had been placed here for everyone to try and see who could learn it. The third floor contained the 100 stacks cultivation method, the source box array, and the core inheritance, the day-night restoration technique. The fourth floor contained the source box array diversion diagram. Although there was only one source box array, the diagram's power had been fully displayed during the Supreme Tournament, and it had attracted the attention of countless people. The fifth floor contained insights on Golden Battle Force cultivation and the Arcane Creation Realm's star energy control. The sixth floor contained the 3 stacks cultivation method, the source box array, and the core inheritance was Lu Yin's famous battle technique, the emptiness palm. The seventh floor contained the complete 13 swords inheritance, the Yu secret art, and the core inheritance was the Night King heaven splitting technique. The eighth floor contained insights on the strategy secret art, repentance, and the core inheritance was reverse step. The reverse step was specially labeled as Progenitor Chen's invincible battle technique. The ninth floor contained the reverse step and the Reaper's transformation. Every level was labeled with Lu Yin's legacy, and the highest level, the 9th level, even included the Reaper's transformation. Countless people recalled the final battle of the Sovereign Tournament, where Lu Yin's invincible might had been the Reaper's transformation. When they saw the numerous inheritances within the 5th tower, the eyes of countless people on the 5th mainland turned red. Their blood surged as they walked out of their homes and headed for the cosmic sea. They were not worried that these inheritances were fake, as they were labeled with the Hall of Honor supervising the construction of the 5th tower. This meant that everything listed was real, and as long as they could reach the 9th floor, they would be able to obtain all of Lu Yin's inheritances. Who was Lu Yin? He was a paragon of his generation, and he had unified the inner verse and outer verse in just a few short decades. Who would not want to become the next Lu Yin? This was an opportunity. The 5th tower was an opportunity for everyone. In the history of the universe, there had never been anyone like Lu Yin who had taken out all of his inheritances to educate the masses. Even those independent cultivators who had been guiding public opinion on the internet and sharing battle techniques with the various large sects had never thought of doing so. However, Lu Yin had done so. He would either not do it or he would go all the way. Chapter 1960. The appearance of the 5th pagoda had completely changed Lu Yin's reputation. No matter what others had thought of him before, countless people now praised him, worshipped him, and prayed for him. This was just the beginning, and the 5th pagoda had yet to be built. Once it was completed and people learned the battle technique inheritance, their worship of Lu Yin would reach a whole new level. At that time it would be just as Wang Wen had said. Countless people would build statues of him and countless people would be grateful to him. He would truly be the savior of the world. Of course, this only applied to independent cultivators and ordinary cultivators. The various large sects had different thoughts. They could dominate their own regions because of their strength. But once these ordinary cultivators increased their power level through the 5th pagoda, it would be difficult for them to suppress them like they had in the past. Fortunately, everyone could enter the 5th pagoda, including the disciples of the various sections. Compared to the ordinary cultivators, it was easier for them to receive the inheritance. It was not easy to receive the inheritance in the 5th pagoda, as every level had its own test. Based on the scale of the 5th pagoda, each level was extremely large and many people could take the test at the same time. It was still difficult for ordinary cultivators to compete with the disciples of the various sects, but there was still hope. The sect with the worst expression right now was the Serious sect and the Sword sect, whose own inheritance had been placed in the 5th pagoda. Yuan Qiong was the first to contact Lu Yin. Lu Yin did not accept the call, but instead contacted Elder Chan and had him speak with the Serious sect. The Su family contacted Lu Yin right after, as there were insights on the plan, secret on the 8th level of the 5th pagoda. Alliance Master Lu, my family doesn't care if you educate the masses, but you actually placed the plan, secret on the 5th pagoda. Doesn't that mean that everyone can learn it? What is the meaning of this, Alliance Master Lu? Su Elder Yen asked angrily, as anyone would be enraged in such a situation. Lu Yin replied, "Calm down, Master Su. Please take a good look. That's the insights of the plan secret on reversal, not the plan secret." Su Elder Yen was stunned. Beside him, Sujio took a look and nodded. The plan secret on reversal? Su Elder Yen was puzzled. Lu Yin smiled. There is no immovable chessboard. Who can learn the plan secret? Can I teach it to others? How? Please teach me, Master Su. Elder Yen felt awkward. He coughed dryly and said, Alliance Master Lu, why did you place the comprehension of the plan's secret on the 8th floor of the 5th pagoda? Lu Yin continued, if you don't understand the Su esoteric secret, then obtaining the insights from repentance is meaningless. This is a gift for your Su family's descendants. As long as they can reach the 8th level, they will be able to obtain the insights. Are you satisfied with this, Su family head? Su Laoyan was pleasantly surprised and satisfied. Of course they were satisfied. Previously, Lu Yin had been observing the motionless chessboard and had reached the realm of regretting move. They had no idea how they could obtain that insight from Lu Yin, and now that insight had been placed on the 8th floor of the 5th tower. Even though they knew that it wouldn't be easy to obtain, it was still better than being left hanging by a thread by Lu Yin. So that's how it is. Thank you, Alliance Leader Lu, Elder Yen said. Since Alliance Leader Lu is so magnanimous to announce your inheritance, the Su clan is impressed. We're willing to contribute many battle skills to the 5th pagoda for everyone to learn. Lu Yin's eyes lit up. The 5th pagoda had been built by him and it had only been a catalyst. Only by having the 5th mainland's other sects and organizations join in and contribute battle techniques would the pagoda become a land of inheritance for the entire 5th mainland. Even if those sects and organizations only contributed mediocre battle techniques, it would still be enough to attract the 5th mainland's most talented cultivators. Go. Thank you, Clan Leader Su. I'll have someone mark the pagoda, and the Su clan's battle techniques will be explained. Su Laoyan smiled. There's no need for that. Are you looking down on me, Clan Leader Su? The Su clan's contributions belong to the Su clan, and I don't want to be greedy. Clan Leader Su, just tell me the names of the battle techniques. With Lu Yin's actions, Su Laoyan couldn't bring himself to use inferior battle techniques. Fortunately, the Su clan had accumulated quite a few battle techniques over the years, and he chose 2 superior ones for Lu Yin. Lu Yin immediately sent them to Wang Wen and had him add them to the picture of the 5th pagoda. Not long after, 2 new inheritances were added to the picture of the 5th pagoda, the 7 Swords Manual and the Heavens Art. The 7 Swords Manual was stored on the 2nd floor, while the Heavens Art was stored on the 3rd. This was not to say that the Zhongtian technique was comparable to the 3rd level of the Day-Night Restoration technique in the Origin Opening Array. Every level required a large amount of inherited battle techniques and resources, and the Day-Night Restoration technique and the Origin Opening Array were the most precious. The Su clan was just the beginning, and under Wang Wen's control, many Innerverse sects added battle techniques to the 5th pagoda. Most of them were on the 1st floor and a few were on the 2nd floor. In just half a day, over 100 battle techniques and many resources were added to the 1st floor. The Ku clan also contacted Lu Yin to ask about the reverse effect. Lu Yin had previously said that he couldn't pass it on to others, and he had even said it in front of Ku Rong. Now that he had placed the reverse effect in the 5th pagoda, it was an insult to the Ku clan. If the reverse effect could really be passed on to others, then Lu Yin's previous visit would have been a joke and a humiliation to the Ku clan. Lu Yin could only tell them that the reverse effect could not be learned, but when his cultivation deepened in the future he might be able to pass it on. This was a gift for the Ku clan, and no one else besides them understood how precious the reverse effect was. The Ku clan was skeptical, but even if they didn't believe him, they couldn't stop Lu Yin from placing the reverse effect in the 9th pagoda. However, the reverse effect was placed on the same level as the Reaper's transformation, which was a form of respect to the desolate ancestor. Although the various inheritances were placed in the 5th pagoda and could be obtained through hard work, how hard would one have to work? The price would be completely up to Lu Yin to decide. He was simply using a different method to keep these powers in suspense. The simplest example was that even if someone obtained the Reaper's transformation inheritance, would he be able to learn it? He wouldn't be able to learn the arcane art of life and death. Next, he would place the literary prison, the 14th sword, and the statue in the home of the gods in the 5th pagoda. He wanted to use the 5th pagoda to bait the entire 5th mainland. This was a game of chess and he could only be the player. There was no need to worry about the safety of the 5th pagoda. Lu Yin had already discussed this with Elder Chan, and he had asked Ancestor Jiao to oversee the pagoda as another layer of insurance. If anyone attacked the 5th pagoda, all of the inheritances in the fifth pagoda would be instantly destroyed. These inheritances would all be marked on the map of the fifth pagoda to put an end to some people such as Xiaji and the Neo-Human Alliance. There were many inheritances in the fifth pagoda, and everyone paid attention to different things. Some were interested in the overlaying stacks path, some were interested in the series technique, and some were interested in the source box array. However, most people were interested in the Empyrean palm and the secret technique. As for reversal step, it attracted a lot of discussion. Why should it be placed on the ninth pagoda? Reversal step was an invincible battle technique that Progenitor Chen's clone had cultivated. Not long after, the Hall of Honor added 7 battle techniques and 1 secret technique, which was exile. Countless people were intrigued. Following that, the Mavis Bank also contributed star essence. There were none on the first pagoda, but the second pagoda contributed 100 million star essence. Every subsequent level added another 100 million, and the ninth pagoda contributed 1 billion star essence. To the ordinary cultivators, star essence was something that they had never even seen before. They only knew about star crystals. When they found out about the exchange rate between star essence and star crystals, countless people went crazy, and even more people wanted to go to the cosmic sea. Some people lacked battle techniques for their cultivation, while others lacked resources for their cultivation. The fifth pagoda had both. The entire network was in an uproar, and the entire fifth mainland was discussing this matter. The entire network was filled with praises for Lu Yin. Lu Yin turned off his gadget as there was no need to look anymore. With the Tactician School, the Hall of Honor, and the Mavis Bank as a catalyst, the number of battle techniques and cultivation techniques in the fifth pagoda would dazzle everyone. He knew that he had succeeded in constructing the fifth pagoda, and the fifth mainland would be restrained by him. No one wanted the inheritances within the fifth pagoda to be destroyed, especially when Lu Yin was going to take the entire fifth pagoda, along with the geniuses. He did not want to take this final step, and he hoped that no one would force him. It would be good to leave behind a reputation for enlightening the fifth mainland. Zhidong found Lu Yin and looked at him in surprise. "You're really going to construct the fifth pagoda? Enlighten the fifth mainland?" Lu Yin smiled. "Are you surprised?" Zhidong was in disbelief. "That's not like you." Lu Yin sighed. "Many people misunderstand me." "Misunderstand?" Zhidong laughed. "How could there be a misunderstanding? The Great Eastern Alliance had gone through a lot of bloodshed to reach this point. Everything else aside, Lu Yin had already set up the Aurora Corporation several years ago, and this clearly showed what kind of person he was. Someone like him should not be trying to enlighten the masses. Zhidong, humanity is facing the threat of the Eternals, and the only way to deal with them is to raise everyone's cultivation strength. Otherwise, do you think that we can just remain as loose as a sheet of loose sand? Even the secret progenitor has betrayed us. Although I don't think that the people of this era are any worse than the people of the past, there is one thing that is certain. Humanity in this era is far inferior to the era of the Daoist sect. Even during the Daoist sect's era, humanity had already wiped out 4 continents. If we continue to hide our inheritances, we will only erase history. Lu Yin poured himself a cup of tea. Zhidong looked at Lu Yin deeply. The Aurora Corporation is willing to contribute 6 cosmic-grade personal spacecraft. Lu Yin smiled. "Thank you." Those who understood Lu Yin could not see through his motives, as only he knew where the threat he was facing was coming from. No matter how one looked at it, the appearance of the fifth pagoda was beneficial to the fifth mainland, and that was enough. The Aurora Corporation can also contribute to the construction of the fifth pagoda, Zhidong said. Lu Yin shook his head. "There's no need for that. The construction of the fifth pagoda isn't difficult. I will set up a test for each level, and it will be a combination of virtual and real life. I will do my best to make everyone who walks out of the fifth pagoda look brand new." "I hope so," Zhidong replied. A few days later, Flying Willow arrived at the Aurora stronghold with Little Sapling. Lu Yin had asked them to bring Little Sapling here because his next stop was Shamrock Enterprises headquarters. There were many things that needed to be taken care of. In order to deal with the threat of the cosmic tree, Lu Yin needed to purge his internal organizations such as Shamrock Enterprises. Chapter 1961. Lu Yi and Flying Flower had brought over 500 pieces of paper, which meant that Lu Yin now had 310 new universal armors. Although it wasn't much, it was still equivalent to 310 enlighters, which wasn't bad. "Alliance Master Lu, I would like to speak with you," Lu Yi said solemnly. Lu Yin nodded. Sure. Lu Yi looked at Sister Flying Flower. I would like to speak with Alliance Master Lu alone. Sister Flying Flower was stunned. Alone. Lu Yi answered seriously, alone. She frowned, looked at him and then at Lu Yin before slowly walking away. Lu Yin was astonished but he didn't say anything. After making sure that Sister Flying Flower couldn't hear him, Lu Yi opened his gadget and displayed an image of what had happened on the Astral River Arc after Lu Yin had fused with his body. Lu Yin quietly watched it and then looked up at Lu Yi. What are you trying to say? Lu Yi stared at Lu Yin. What happened? I don't have any of those memories. Lu Yin shrugged. You must have met the person you wanted to see the most. Lu Yi was confused and looked at Lu Yin in confusion. Lu Yin smiled. Kuei Luo. Lu Ye's eyes narrowed. Kuei Luo? Lu Yin nodded. Aside from him, I can't think of anyone else who could easily control you and make your memories blank. Only he could do that, and if it wasn't him, I have no way of explaining it. Lu Yi had thought of many possibilities, but Kuei Luo had never crossed his mind. Kuei Luo was a dignified half-ancestor, so why would he control Lu Yi? Just to say a few words? What was the point? But if it wasn't Kuei Luo, then how could he explain it? Lu Ye's cultivation was very high, and there weren't many people who could surpass him, especially in this abandoned land. Even powerhouses with power levels in the millions would find it difficult to control him and make his memories blank. Lu Yin didn't mind as he watched Lu Yi fall into deep thought. No one would have thought that he had an innate gift like the Dai's possession. Fusing with someone else's body? Even a half-ancestor wouldn't be able to explain it. Sir, did you specially send this paper over just to ask about this? Lu Yin asked. Lu Yi nodded. If you were being controlled, you would want to know the reason as well. Then what do you plan to do next? Lu Yin asked. Lu Ye's expression became complicated. He didn't know either. To live in seclusion with Sister Flying Flower? Or find a way to return to the Astral Tree? If you don't have any plans, why don't you join the Great Eastern Alliance? Mr. Lu Yi shook his head. My wife does not wish to be bound. Lu Yin's eyes flashed. Sir, do you know about the fifth tower? Mr. Lu Yi was stunned and he looked deeply at Lu Yin. You've made me see you in a new light. I never thought that someone would actually be willing to pass on their legacy to others. If everything goes smoothly, your name will become the most resplendent page in history in a few years' time. You've changed the structure of humanity. Lu Yin smiled. Then would you like to join? Mr. Lu Yi thought for a moment. My wife and I have a few battle skills that can be put into the fifth tower. That's not what I meant. Under Mr. Lu Ye's confused gaze, Lu Yin said seriously, I want to invite you to oversee the fifth tower. Mr. Lu Yi was surprised. Overseeing the fifth tower? Lu Yin nodded. The fifth pagoda has been successfully established, and the battle skill inheritances within are all-encompassing. However, even though there are half-martial ancestors guarding the tower, they won't be able to frequently take action against small fries. That's why I want you and your wife to guard the fifth tower and protect the countless legacies. You don't have any plans anyway. Mr. Lu Yi muttered to himself. Lu Yin continued, and if I remember correctly, your disciples are still in the astral tree realm, and you might not be able to see them for the rest of your lives. The fifth tower will definitely be a gathering place for all of the fifth mainland's geniuses. You can choose your disciples and leave your legacies behind. Most importantly, according to history, you were one of the earliest guardians of the fifth tower. Mr. Lu Yi was moved. He didn't care about leaving his name in history, but he cared about his legacies. Their legacies couldn't disappear. I need to discuss this with my wife, Mr. Lu Yi said. Lu Yin nodded. He didn't expect Mr. Lu Yi to really join him, but overseeing the fifth tower wasn't bad either. Otherwise, he would have to send someone else. Not long after, Mr. Lu Yi agreed to oversee the fifth tower. Lu Yin was delighted. The fifth tower was located in the Cosmic Sea between the Core and Leon's Legion. Could be considered the central region of the Cosmic Sea. If one wanted to go to the fifth tower, they would first have to pass through the Cosmic Sea, which was also a test. In the future, the Cosmic Sea would become the most lively place in the fifth mainland. Not long after Mr. Lu Yi left for the Cosmic Sea, Lu Yin left Aurora Fort as well. He brought the sapling and the second Night King to the Glory Realm. Sometimes the second Night King felt really aggrieved. Not only did he have to protect an enemy like Lu Yin, but he also had to act as Lu Yin's driver. At this moment he grabbed a personal spacecraft and headed for the glory realm with Lu Yin and the sapling inside. The sapling was very curious about the universe, but it was also a little afraid. Its branches wrapped tightly around Lu Yin's fingers, and its leaves emitted a warm glow that made people feel comfortable. Beep 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 beep. His gadget beeped and Lu Yin looked over to see that it was Lu Qianjue. The sword sect's 13 swords were in the 5th tower, so Lu Qianjue should have contacted him long ago. Sect Master Lu, I've been busy recently. Once I return to the Innerverse I'll send Lu Hao to the sword sect, Lu Yin said. Lu Yin had agreed to send Lu Hao to the sword sect in order to take over the war against the astral beast domain. Otherwise the sword sect wouldn't have been able to survive that war. Lu Qianjue said, "Thank you, Alliance Master, but that's not why I'm looking for you." "What else is there?" Lu Yin pretended not to understand. Lu Qianjue lowered his voice and said, "Alliance Master, why are you asking when you already know the answer? The 5th tower has been constructed, and the 13 swords inheritance has been placed there. Shouldn't you give the sword sect an explanation? The 13 swords are the foundation of the sword sect." Lu Yin smiled. "I was careless and didn't explain it to Sect Master Lu. In terms of understanding of the 13 swords, no one in the universe can compare to the sword sect." "Then how many people in the sword sect have been able to learn the 13 swords?" "Only 4 at the moment," Lu Qianjue replied. Lu Yin continued, "The older generations Lu Huang, Sect Master Lu himself, and the younger generations Lu Tianmu and Lu Xiaoqiu. How many people in the sword sect have tried to cultivate the 13 swords, and how many of them have actually succeeded?" "That's not a reason to casually spread the 13 swords," Lu Qianjue suppressed his voice. The moment the 5th tower's blueprint had been uploaded onto the network, he had contacted Lu Huang to ask Lu Yin for an explanation. Lu Huang had asked him to wait and see if Lu Yin would take the initiative to contact them. Lu Huang couldn't wait any longer and had to take the initiative to contact Lu Yin. It was Lu Yin. For a sect, spreading their core battle techniques was a huge taboo. If it wasn't handled properly, it would affect the internal affairs of the Great Eastern Alliance. Sect Master Lu, the first sword of the 13 swords is stored on the 2nd floor of the 5th tower, and there's only one first sword on the entire 2nd floor. If someone obtains it, I'll immediately know. The chances of an outsider learning the 13 swords are extremely low, and even if that person is lucky enough to learn the 13 swords, I'll immediately notify the sword sect so that you can bring it back to Sword Mountain. If the sword sect doesn't allow it, then that person won't be able to obtain the complete inheritance of the 13 swords. Lu Qianjue nodded. "I understand Alliance Master's thoughts, but the complete inheritance of the 13 swords is on the 7th floor. What if someone obtains it there? Even if they obtain it, they won't be able to learn it and they won't be able to spread it. Sect Master Lu, how likely do you think it is for an outsider to obtain the inheritance of the 13 swords and learn it?" Lu Qianjue frowned. "No matter what, the sword sect hopes that the Alliance Master will cancel the inheritance of the 13 swords. Fate is something that no one can predict. Didn't you learn the 13 swords yourself?" Lu Yin understood this logic, but the inheritance of the battle techniques had been placed in the 5th pagoda for the sake of taking the final step in the future. How could he listen to the sword sect? "Sect Master Lu, how about this? 2 years. The 13 swords will remain in the 5th pagoda for 2 years and I'll remove it after that. I can guarantee you that it's unlikely that anyone will be able to reach the 7th floor in 2 years, Lu Yin said. Lu Qianjue still wanted to say something but Lu Yin interrupted him. "This is already the greatest concession that I can make. Sect Master Lu, please consider this carefully. The inheritances within the 5th pagoda are all one-time things, and they cannot be passed on to outsiders. No one would be willing to pass them on to outsiders." Lu Qianjue was helpless. "Alright, 2 years at most. I believe in the Alliance Master, but please keep an eye out for the inheritance of the 13 swords." Lu Yin smiled as he understood Lu Qianjue's intentions. If someone really did manage to reach the 7th floor and learn the 13 swords, they would either have to hand it over to the sword sect or give them an explanation. This was the sword sect's bottom line. "Don't worry. There's one more thing." Lu Qianjue hesitated. "Something strange has happened to me and it's related to the Alliance Master. I hope that I can get an answer from you." Lu Yin raised a brow as he naturally knew what was going on. Just like Mr. Lu Yi, Lu Yin had fused into Lu Qianjue's body and given orders to Elder Li, which had aroused Lu Qianjue's suspicions. Speak, Lu Yin said. Lu Qianjue slowly said, there was a period of time when my memories were completely blank and I gave out orders that did not match my personality. According to Elder Li, I even told Elder Lianxin to scram. Alliance Master, are you aware of this matter? Lu Yin replied, I'm not sure. I was far away in the Neoverse while you were in the Innerverse. If I had been next to you at that time I might have known. Lu Qianjue's eyes flickered. He did not suspect that Lu Yin was the culprit as Lu Yin was too far away from him. He suspected that someone behind Lu Yin was the culprit, such as the Second Night King. However, the Second Night King had also followed Lu Yin. To be able to control Lu Qianjue and make his memories completely blank, it had to be a powerhouse with a power level of at least 1,000,000. In the entire Great Eastern Alliance, there were only 2 powerhouses with such power levels. Aside from that, who else could it be? Right? Lu Qianjue's eyes trembled. Lu Yin's backer was a half-ancestor. Sect Master Lu, I'll investigate this matter, but I might not be able to find anything. Your words are a little preposterous, Lu Yin said. Lu Qianjue replied, I know. Just pretend that I didn't say anything. Chapter 1962. Lu Yin ended the call. In the future he would try his best not to do anything when he entered someone else's body. Just reading their memories would be enough, as doing too much would raise suspicions. The outside world had never stopped guessing about him. From the very beginning, people had suspected that he had obtained the legacy of an ancient sect, to the death god's inheritance. There were even people who suspected that he had unfathomable methods. The most typical example was that many external objects had mysteriously become powerful in his hands. None of this could escape the eyes of the observant. The main reason was that his status was too high and he had many powerhouses supporting him. If he was just a minor character, he would have been captured and interrogated long ago. The 5th tower would take at least half a year to complete, and the materials could be transported by Leon's armada. It would be a pity if so many pirates didn't make use of them. The Hall of Honor would also provide materials, but even so, it would still take half a year. The 5th tower wasn't just for the inheritance. If he hadn't taken the final step, the 5th tower would have been the symbol of the 5th mainland in Lu Yin. It would have been worshipped by the entire 5th mainland. If there was a star chart that covered the entire 5th mainland, it would clearly show that from the outer verse to the inner verse, and from the Neoverse to the Cosmic Sea, countless people were heading towards the Cosmic Sea to wait for the 5th tower to be built. It was a grand occasion that would enlighten the masses and bring blessings to generations. Lu Yin knew that the 5th tower's construction would have a great impact on the 5th mainland, but he couldn't imagine how great the impact would be. From the outside, Shamrock Enterprises' main world looked like 3 green leaves. It was located near Jie Mountain in the Glory Plain, and it was surrounded by forests and streams. People could enter or leave Jie Mountain. The 3 leaves were completely unremarkable in this forest, but who would have thought that it was Shamrock Enterprises' main world? Lu Yin had already contacted Balsam before he arrived. Half a day before Lu Yin's arrival, Leaf King had already brought Balsam and a group of Shamrock Enterprises upper echelons to wait for him. Lu Yin's reason for coming was to research immortality. After waiting for half a day, Lu Yin still hadn't arrived. According to his calculations, he should have arrived by now. Leaf King's expression was calm. There were more than 100 upper echelons of Shamrock Enterprises, and they were all waiting in the forest. This was a lineup that was only used to receive extremely important guests. Quite a few of them were complaining because Lu Yin had stolen Yi Wang's position as a director. If not for Lu Yin, Leaf King would have already been a director of the Hall of Honor, and Shamrock Enterprises would have been able to take another step forward. King Yi, Lu Yin hasn't arrived yet. Will there be any problems? Balsam asked softly. Yi King said calmly. He must have been delayed by something. What problem could there be? Balsam hesitated for a moment. He should know about what happened to you. Yi King's eyes flashed. He had tried to capture the sapling time and time again. If the sapling was the astral source pill that had escaped his control, then Lu Yin should have guessed that he was the one who had attacked the sapling. Know what? I didn't do anything. Lu Yin is a director of the Hall of Honor and he knows his limits. Balsam frowned. The new director, Lei Qingqing, is rumored to be unbridled in the World Mountain. What's the relationship between Lu Yin and her? All right, let's wait quietly, King Yi interrupted. Balsam was still worried, but she didn't say anything. She took a few steps back and waited quietly. At this moment she couldn't see through King Ye's thoughts. Not far from the forest, Lu Yin stopped. It wasn't that he didn't want to go to Shamrock Enterprises headquarters, but that he was testing something. Wireless goo. Wireless goo was a very special goo developed by the divine goo dynasty's Xiao Cheng. It was said that it could allow communication regardless of distance. Lu Yin had been interested in it back then because it could allow communication between the astral source universe and the real universe. This was something that a personal terminal couldn't do. Ever since then, Lu Yin had Prince Bei lead Xiao Cheng's people in all directions of the Fifth Mainland to explore the furthest distance that the wireless goo could reach. Just now, Prince Bei had personally contacted him and asked him to take out the wireless goo. On the other end, someone had contacted him from an unknown star region. Currently, the leaders of the Great Eastern Alliance's 8 Great Flow Zones were all equipped with special personal terminals that could connect the Neoverse to the Innerverse and Outerverse. This was the Starlink network support for the Great Eastern Alliance. Lu Yin looked at the various shapes of the wireless goo and was amazed. At the same time, he looked at his personal terminal and saw that the youth called Little Fa was beside Prince Bei. What's the meaning of this? Lu Yin asked. Little Fa looked at the shape of the wireless goo and excitedly said, "He's saying hello to you." Lu Yin was surprised. Location? I don't know. Astral Wilderness. Lu Yin's eyes flickered as he looked at the tadpole in his palm in amazement. Could actually contact him from an unknown star region. This was something that even a personal terminal couldn't do. Although its functions couldn't compare to a personal terminal, its range was far superior. How many of these tadpoles do you have? Lu Yin asked. Little Fa mumbled, "It's a wireless goo." He thought about it. A few hundred at the moment. Not enough, far from enough. Give me a few 100 million, Lu Yin said directly. Little Fa was shocked and his face paled. A few 100 million? Lu Yin looked at him. How long? Little Fa gulped. Cultivating a wireless goo is fast, but it consumes a lot of resources. This. Lu Yin raised a hand. Just tell me how much it costs. Little Fa looked at Lu Yin enviously. I can't calculate it, but it's at least over 1 million star essence. Right, star essence, not star crystals. That's a lot of money. Lu Yin smiled. Prince Bei, Lu Yin said. The Prince Bei hurriedly replied, "Rest assured, Alliance leader. We will cultivate the wireless goo as quickly as possible. At the same time, we will compile the 3,279 passwords for the wireless goo into a book for everyone in the Great Eastern Alliance to learn. We must ensure that the entire Great Eastern Alliance uses the wireless goo to form a communication network that ignores distance in the shortest time possible." Lu Yin was satisfied. Once this is done well, I'll do my best to help you with any requests you have. The Prince Bei smiled. I'm also a member of the Alliance, so I naturally want to work for the Alliance leader. Lu Yin nodded. Continue exploring. I want to see how far this wireless goo can reach. I definitely don't believe that it ignores space. Little Fa was unconvinced. It does ignore space. Lu Yin smiled and ended the call. His eyes lit up as he looked at the tadpole in his hand. Once a battle broke out, the communication network would be quickly cut off by the enemy. For example, the Neo-Human Alliance understood the human domain too well. Once they attacked the Fifth Mainland, they would definitely cut off the network immediately to prevent the humans from contacting each other. The wireless goo's existence prevented this from happening. The Great Eastern Alliance was becoming more and more complete. Unfortunately, the wireless goo had too few functions. Lu Yin put away the tadpole while also putting it away. He placed the sapling into Mount Supreme and followed the second Night King into the forest. They quickly met up with Yi Wang's group. When Yi Wang saw Lu Yin arrive, he hurried forward and smiled. Alliance leader Lu, welcome to Shamrock Enterprises headquarters. Lu Yin smiled. Sorry to disturb you, Yi Wang. I really do desire eternal life, and if it wasn't for the fact that I've been too busy recently, I would have come long ago. You're welcome, I've been waiting for you. Yi Wang glanced at the second Night King and exclaimed, This must be senior second Night King of the Day-Night clan. Lu Yin waved a hand. Don't worry about him, let's talk. I heard that Shamrock Enterprises has the most exotic plants in the entire universe. I want to see them today, huh? Of course, Alliance Leader Lu, please come in. Yuang gestured for him to enter. All of the higher-ups of Shamrock Enterprises stood at the sides and bowed to Lu Yin. Lu Yin was astonished. In truth, Shamrock Enterprises was better than anyone else when it came to etiquette. Not only did the higher-ups come out to greet him, they even bowed. Yuang, you're too courteous. Lu Yin was embarrassed. Yuang smiled. Alliance Leader Lu not only represents the Great Eastern Alliance, but is also a member of the Hall of Honor. It's only right that you come as a representative. Lu Yin's eyes flashed and his lips curled up. Then I won't be courteous. Please. Lu Yin glanced at Balsam, who had her head lowered and walked past her. He approached the 3 dark green leaves and took a step forward. His figure flashed as he entered a strange space. This was a mystical space that was completely composed of plants. Not only were the ground covered in plants, but even the sky was covered in plants. The plants were also the ones that glowed with light. They were emerald green and it was very comfortable to look at. This was a strange ecosystem that was completely composed of plants. Yuang appeared beside Lu Yin with a smile on his face. He had always been handsome and it was very comfortable to look at. Alliance Leader Lu, this is Shamrock Enterprises headquarters. Everything that flies in the sky, walks on the ground and swims in the water are all plants. Whether they're moving or not, they're all plants. All of our food comes from plants. Let me show you around. Lu Yin nodded and followed Yuang as they walked through the strange world of plants. This world wasn't very large, and for someone with Lu Yin's cultivation, he could see the entire place in the blink of an eye. Even so, he was still amazed. He saw natural treasures that could help him avoid danger. There were no restrictions and he could walk around freely. He also saw strange fruits that were grown from plants and some plants that were quite powerful. Alliance Leader Lu also likes to collect strange plants that can walk. These plants are everywhere in my world and there's one that you'll definitely be surprised by. Yuang brought Lu Yin to a tall mountain with flowing water. Above them was a giant tree with drooping branches and leaves that glowed with a fluorescent light. Leaf King led Lu Yin to the back of the waterfall where he saw a strange plant. It was a colorful flower with petals that were several meters wide. It didn't look very beautiful, but strangely there was meat on it. Lu Yin blinked. This is meat? Yuang, didn't you say that all of the food in this world comes from plants? That's right, it does come from plants. This piece of meat also came from this flower. Yuang smiled. Lu Yin was shocked. Flowers can grow meat? And it's cooked. He felt like Yuang was treating him like an idiot. This was clearly a vegetable and a meat dish at that. Chapter 1963. Yi King could hear Lu Yin's dissatisfaction and smiled. Alliance Leader Lu, just watch quietly. This flower is something I've never seen in my entire life. No, it's a strange plant that hasn't even appeared in the ancient records. Its most unique trait is that it can form all sorts of food, but I don't know how. Just like how we humans have innate gifts, this flower can't explain its ability to form food, such as barbecued meat or exquisite dishes. Lu Yin was shocked. There was such a thing? I've also checked the food and it's made from real ingredients. It's like someone else's food being moved here, Yi King said. Lu Yin raised his brows. Then how long do I have to wait? I'm not sure. Alliance Leader Lu is here to study immortality. I can tell you that I have no clue about immortality, but I do know a little about space and it's related to this flower, Yi King said confidently. Lu Yin looked at Yi King. You studied space through this flower? Yi King nodded. How should I put it? After studying it for so long, I realized that space might not even exist. It's just a facade that we humans understand. Just like this flower, I don't believe that it can create something out of nothing. It definitely uses space to bring food made by someone else, and space is meaningless to it. Lu Yin thought of wireless goo. Space was meaningless to wireless goo as well. I brought Alliance Leader Lu here not only to see the wonders of this flower, but also to study space with you. From what I know, Alliance Leader Lu also has something that can ignore space. It's a type of goo. Yi King stared at Lu Yin. Lu Yin's eyes flashed. Wireless goo. Back then, Balsam represented Shamrock Enterprises to present a congratulatory gift to young Emperor Qing. At that time, Alliance Leader Lu was already interested in wireless goo. There's no harm in telling Alliance Leader Lu that Balsam also investigated Xiao Cheng's wireless goo and was interested as well. However, Alliance Leader Lu beat her to it. If Alliance Leader Lu thinks that Shamrock Enterprises is qualified, we can study it together, Yi King suggested. Lu Yin thought about it. We can study it together, but it'll consume a lot of resources. Yi King smiled. Shamrock Enterprises will take full responsibility for this. How about we give you 1 billion crystal essences first? Lu Yin smiled brilliantly. All right. Yi King smiled and sat down. Let's wait and see. Alliance Leader Lu might be able to see something. Lu Yin had come here to purge Shamrock Enterprises, not to discuss the space with them. However, he didn't mind spending so much time with them. The Leaf King had probably guessed Lu Yin's intentions, which was why he had immediately accused Lu Yin of representing the Hall of Honor. Now the Leaf King was trying to tempt Lu Yin with research and funding. If the Leaf King wasn't trying to stall for time, then the Leaf King was trying to find a way to deal with Lu Yin. Lu Yin was also curious as to how the Leaf King was able to fight against the second Night King. At best, the Leaf King was about the same level as Flying Willow, which was a far cry from the second Night King. A day passed by quickly. The piece of meat on the flower had long been thrown away by the Leaf King. He did not eat meat. He waited for another 2 days before the petals suddenly moved. Then, under his astonished gaze, a dish appeared. It was an exquisite dish, and although he couldn't tell what the ingredients were, the fragrance was undeniable. Lu Yin had been staring at the flowers, but he couldn't see how the vegetables had appeared. He suddenly felt that this scene was very familiar. This flower had appeared out of nowhere. At that moment, Yi Wang laughed loudly from the side and Lu Yin's mind clenched. It was the same flower, but it was the same laughter. His vision blurred and he seemed to see a few figures sitting together, chatting and waiting for something. This scene was very familiar, but it also made him feel sad. What was going on? Had he seen this flower before? Was it when he was with Zhou Xian? Then these people were the 7 heroes. Alliance Master Lu, the Leaf King called out as he looked at Lu Yin. Lu Yin was stunned and the blurred scene disappeared. He saw the Leaf King inside. What is it? The Leaf King asked. Did you see it clearly, Alliance Master Lu? Lu Yin was puzzled. See what? The appearance of food, the Leaf King said. Lu Yin shook his head. No. The Leaf King was disappointed. It can appear out of thin air. It can either be created or transferred. This is what I told Alliance Master Lu. If we can study this flower thoroughly, we might have a similar ability. The ability to create food? Lu Yin's eyes lit up as he blurted out as if he had said something similar before. The Leaf King was stunned. Of course it's not food. It's the ability to control space. He looked at Lu Yin strangely. A normal person wouldn't think of food, right? Lu Yin stared at the flower in a daze, recalling the familiar scene. He was stunned again. The Leaf King's eyes flashed coldly when he saw Lu Yin's expression, and his fingers twitched. At that moment, a roasted pig appeared on the flower petal, and the fragrance wafted out, waking Lu Yin up. Lu Yin grabbed the pig leg and ate it, but his mood didn't improve. His memories and emotions had all been sealed, and even if he occasionally thought about them, he would still feel sad. Perhaps the seal wasn't a bad thing, as he wasn't as happy as he was now. After finishing the pig, Lu Yin stood up and casually wiped his hands on his clothes. Great. The Leaf King was puzzled. This Lu Yin was like a completely different person. Did he have a split personality? Scope. Lu Yin turned around and left the waterfall. The Leaf King followed. Alliance Master Lu, let's study space together. It's the most mysterious power. Lu Yin didn't answer and instead asked. I heard that the Leaf King represents creation and healing. I understand healing, which is Shamrock Enterprises. Then what is creation? He then looked at the Leaf King. The two exchanged glances and the Leaf King smiled. What creation? It's just a mystery created by my subordinates. If they didn't say that, why would others care about Shamrock Enterprises? Lu Yin retracted his gaze. That's reasonable. At that moment, a figure crossed through the void in front of them. It was a young girl with bright eyes and white teeth. She was beautiful and her eyes were crafty and charming. Yu Er greets the Leaf King and Alliance Master Lu. The young girl approached the two and bowed respectfully. Yer, what's the matter? The Leaf King asked. Yu Er pursed her lips and smiled. The company has prepared all the information on immortality. The Leaf King grunted and then looked at Lu Yin. Alliance Master Lu, if you're interested in immortality, then this is all that Shamrock Enterprises can do. Let me show you. There's no rush. Lu Yin then looked at Yu Er. You're Yu Mu's disciple? The Leaf King looked at Yu Er. Yu Er bowed respectfully. I didn't expect Alliance Master Lu to know me. Master was rude to you in the past, so I apologize on his behalf. She then bowed again. Lu Yin said, Yu Mu. He told me that you're a hidden seed of Shamrock Enterprises and told me to be careful of you. Yu Er was astonished. Why should I be careful? Did this little girl do something wrong? Or did Master misunderstand? Oh right. Yu Er seemed to recall something and she looked aggrieved. Master wanted me to accompany him, but I didn't agree, so. Lu Yin's eyes narrowed as he looked at the Leaf King. I've always been curious about Shamrock Enterprises seeds. Yi King, do you know if there are any hidden seeds of Shamrock Enterprises within the Great Eastern Alliance? The Leaf King was taken aback. I don't know what that traitor Yu Mu said to Alliance Master Lu, but the so-called hidden seeds are just some cultivators that Shamrock Enterprises sponsored with innate gifts. We don't want their innate gifts to go to waste, and it's considered a contribution to humanity. We don't control their lives, and it's impossible for us to turn them into spies. Alliance Master Lu, you've gone too far. But you didn't answer my question. Lu Yin stared at the Leaf King and asked again, does the Great Eastern Alliance have any hidden seeds of Shamrock Enterprises? Yu Er's eyes widened and she looked on curiously. The Leaf King was like a god to them, and no one had ever questioned the Leaf King like this before. They didn't even dare to think about it, and she had never expected to see it today. The Leaf King frowned. Oh. Lu Yin and the Leaf King looked at each other for a while, and then Lu Yin smiled. I trust you, Leaf King. The Leaf King's expression turned ugly. Alliance Master Lu, I welcome you to Shamrock Enterprises headquarters. Whether it's the company's research secrets on immortality or the flower that I see as the future that can be used to research space, I've already shared them with you. However, Alliance Master Lu's attitude towards me doesn't seem too friendly. Shamrock Enterprises might not be as good as the Great Eastern Alliance, but we won't bow and scrape. Lu Yin smiled. Don't mind me, Leaf King. We haven't gotten to the main point yet. Alliance Master Lu, you can take away all of Shamrock Enterprises' research on immortality as a gift. There's no need to talk about anything else, the Leaf King said unhappily. Lu Yin was astonished. Shamrock Enterprises' research on immortality is accumulated over many years. This gift is too valuable and I'm flattered. The Leaf King said, I only hope that Alliance Master Lu won't disappoint me. If you're still willing to research space with me, I welcome you. Of course, but there are some things that need to be clarified. Lu Yin clasped his hands behind his back and looked at the Leaf King. Xia Yi said that you were the one who let him go. The Leaf King's eyes widened. What Xia Yi? I don't know what Alliance Master Lu is talking about. Lu Yin's lips curled up. You don't know? I went to the 7 courts and specifically asked Xia Yi. He was captured by the Great Eastern Alliance and imprisoned in the Ross Empire's stronghold. You were the one who let him go. The Leaf King's fingers twitched and his expression darkened. So Alliance Master Lu is here to denounce me. Lu Yin raised his head. Not really. Tell me the reason. Maybe I don't care. The Leaf King's eyes flickered. I didn't let him go. You can have Xia Yi confront me. Besides, I don't have a reason to let him go. A reason? Lu Yin touched his cosmic ring and suddenly looked at Yu Er. Your Leaf King is known to represent creation and healing. Do you know what that means? Yu Er was stunned as she had not expected Lu Yin to ask her such a question. I don't know. Lu Yin smiled. It's very simple. Healing represents Shamrock Enterprises and creation. He stared at the Leaf King. It represents the Astral Origin Pill. Chapter 1964. As soon as Lu Yin uttered the words, Astral Origin Pill, King Yi reached out and grabbed at Lu Yin. He was extremely decisive. The moment Lu Yin mentioned the Astral Origin Pill, Leaf King no longer hesitated. Lu Yin had already laid all his cards on the table. The second Night King appeared in front of Lu Yin and snorted. He casually pointed out with his Night King Immortal finger, bringing with it an extreme chill that froze the entire Shamrock Enterprises world. This finger was not something that Leaf King could withstand, and the nearby fish tea was immediately frozen and fell to the ground. With a crack, Leaf King's forehead was struck by the finger and his head cracked open. Strangely, there was no blood and his body split in two, turning into a split tree that wrapped around the second Night King. The second Night King disdainfully flicked his finger, causing his astral source to sweep out and tear through the void, causing countless cracks to appear in the outside world. Outside, the 3 emerald leaves cracked, unable to withstand the second Night King's explosive power. Lu Yin continuously retreated, as Shamrock Enterprises definitely did not have the power to face the second Night King head-on. He looked in the direction where the flower had been. He had to take it away. Although it was impossible to create a spatial dimension by studying a flower, that flower could still evoke his memories. Unexpectedly, the second Night King's astral source did not push away the tree that Leaf King had turned into. The entire world suddenly changed, and all the plants quickly shrank as trees appeared on the ground and shot up into the sky, surrounding the second Night King. The trees continued to combine and gradually wrapped around the second Night King. Lu Yin's expression changed. This kind of tree? With a boom, all the plants in Shamrock Enterprises' world disappeared, leaving only the incomparably large tree in the sky that sealed the second Night King. A deafening sound came from within, accompanied by the second Night King's angry roars. He could not break through. Lu Yin was in disbelief. What kind of tree could trap the second Night King? Was this Leaf King's trump card? Behind him, the void distorted and Leaf King walked out with a pale face. He stared at Lu Yin, his originally handsome face now filled with malevolence. Lu Yin turned around and met Leaf King's gaze. "What are you?" Leaf King grinned. "Brat, you're too arrogant. I didn't want to fall out with you, but do you really think that you can do whatever you want with the second Night King's protection? Didn't you want to know what my creation was? This is creation. Can you see it clearly?" Lu Yin's eyes flashed. "This isn't your power." There's no need for my strength. The second Night King is trapped and I can kill you before he escapes. Although I don't know what method you used to control the second Night King, if you die he'll be freed. Not only will he not attack me but he'll even thank me," the Leaf King said sternly as he stepped forward and punched Lu Yin. Lu Yin struck out with a palm, the clear void palm. Bunga loud explosion shook the sky and the two of them retreated at the same time. King Yi was shocked. "Your power." Compared to Yi King, Lu Yin was even more astonished. Not only did Yi King possess the strength to directly resist the emptiness palm, but he was also able to ignore spiritual force and domain. How could this be? Ever since he had become an emissary, even though he had to keep the 3 astral cyclones and seal the 3 stages, reducing the boost to his strength, he was still strong enough to challenge elites with a combat power of more than 800,000. After that, with the help of Elder Jioshan's 1,000 stacks combat techniques, his strength had improved by leaps and bounds. But he did not expect that he would not be able to defeat Yi Wang in one go. One must not underestimate King Yi. Back then he had escaped from Lu Huang's sword. Today he had even trapped the second Night King. Thinking of this, Lu Yin raised his hand and continued with the clear void palm. This time he displayed the emptiness palm's greatest power, the 1,000 stacks emptiness palm. Yi King charged at Lu Yin, allowing the emptiness palm to strike him. It only slowed him down, but it was unable to harm him. Lu Yin had fought countless battles, and Yi King's true strength should be about the same as his. Even so, he had not expected that Yi King would be able to withstand the emptiness palm. "So what if I can trap the second Night King? I can get out," Lu Yin shouted. The Leaf King sneered. "Unless you directly destroy the outside world, don't even think about leaving." He then shouted, "Shifting stars, changing leaves." He waved his hand, causing a strange undulation to sweep across Lu Yin's body. The astral source that Lu Yin had released turned into leaves. This was a battle technique that the Little Leaf King had used in the Mountain and Sea realm and during the Sovereign Tournament. It could turn an opponent's star energy into fallen leaves, and Lu Yin had seen it before. Now Yi King was actually able to turn his own astral source into fallen leaves. Once one reached the astral realm, one had to be careful when releasing their astral source in battle, even if they had the aura concealment stone. Yi King's star-shifting leaf had restricted Lu Yin's movements. Lu Yin raised his foot and took a step forward. The moment Yi King arrived in front of him, his body swayed as he took a step backwards. Yi King punched out, breaking through the void. It should have hit Lu Yin, but it didn't. How could this be? Lu Yin's eyes turned into runes as he used the Codex of Ian Evolution. Knowledge denial weakening. Yi King's expression changed and he felt a chill in his chest. His eyes narrowed as he saw Lu Yin's palm strike out. The next moment not only did Lu Yin's palm strike miss, but his body was also mysteriously thrown far away. Banishment secret technique? Lu Yin stared at Yi King in disbelief. You're from the Hall of Honor? Yi King sneered. You don't need to know. You're going to die today. There's a fundamental difference between you and me. He then pushed out with both hands and shouted, Star-shifting leaf. At the same time, golden meteors fell from the sky and smashed towards Lu Yin. Lu Yin was thoroughly shocked. The Hui family's battle technique, golden meteors. How could this be? Yi King not only knew the Hall of Honor's secret technique, but also the Hui family's battle technique. Yi King was extremely mysterious at this moment. The golden meteors smashed towards Lu Yin, each one containing the power of an emissary with a power level of 800,000. This was something that Yi King had been nurturing for countless years, and it was second only to his trump card that had trapped the second Night King. Even if dozens of emissaries attacked Clover World at the same time, they would still be destroyed by this golden meteor attack. In the face of such a powerful attack, Lu Yin could only use the Codex of Yin Evolution. Yi King sneered, and under Lu Yin's incredulous gaze his eyes turned into runes. You think you're the only one who knows the Codex of Yin Evolution? I know it as well. He then stared at Lu Yin, weakening. Lu Yin was shocked, but he did not have time to think about why Yi King knew the Codex of Yin Evolution. He used the reverse step and dodged the golden meteors. Each one shook the greater world as they crashed down, and it was as if the apocalypse had arrived. There were many people living in Clover Enterprise's greater world, and after the plants had been absorbed, they had begun to panic. Now as they watched the golden meteors explode, they were all terrified that they would be killed. Balsam looked into the distance with a pale face. Yi King had finally displayed his true strength. No one in this universe understood Yi King, not even the Hall of Honor. She, on the other hand, had only glimpsed a little of Yi King's power and was already willing to submit. Trapped. The second Night King might seem inconceivable to others, but she knew that Yi King could do it. In this greater world, Yi King was invincible. Lu Yin had underestimated Yi King. He had thought that he would be able to easily suppress him, but he had not expected the second Night King to be trapped. This was his first real battle after becoming an emissary, and he did not want to use any external items. Yi King was very strong, so he would become Lu Yin's first test after becoming an emissary. Lu Yin had underestimated Yi King, but Yi King had also underestimated Lu Yin. He had thought that after breaking through Lu Yin's cosmic evolution scripture, he would be able to suppress Lu Yin with his golden meteors. At the very least, he would be able to force Lu Yin to use his trump cards such as external items. However, he had not expected that Lu Yin would be able to dodge the golden meteors with just his footwork. These golden meteors were not real meteors and they could be easily avoided. Each meteor had an attack with a power level of 800,000, which was equivalent to an attack from a powerhouse with a power level of 800,000. How could Lu Yin dodge them so easily? However, Lu Yin had still been able to dodge them with ease. Yi King had no choice but to stop his golden meteors and stare at Lu Yin. Where did you learn this footwork technique from? I've never seen you use it before. Lu Yin raised his head. There are many things that you haven't seen, Yi King. To be honest, I've underestimated you, but this is the end of it. I'm very interested in your secrets. He then used reverse steps to quickly close in on Yi King, disrupting the void so that Yi King's attacks could do nothing to him. He also visualized the immovable Heavenly King elephant, increasing his strength tenfold as he struck out with a palm. Yi King could move stars and change leaves, and facing him was like facing an enlighter facing an envoy. It was difficult to fight but not impossible. Yi King gritted his teeth. This is the end of it? You can try. He then raised a hand to meet Lu Yin's palm head-on. Bang! An earth-shattering explosion tore through the outside world, and one of the green leaves was directly torn apart. Everyone in the outside world felt their minds explode, and those who were below the enlighter realm immediately fainted. Some were even killed by the shockwave. Lu Yin and Yi King's palms collided, and they both retreated at the same time. Lu Yin's eyes narrowed. Impossible. His strength had increased tenfold, and under a power level of 1,000,000, no one should be able to resist him unless they were corpse kings of the Eternals. Yi King sighed. Everyone says that your physical strength is unrivaled, and it seems that it's true. You're the only one who can face me head-on in so many years. Both sides were shocked by each other's strength, but they could not understand how the other could possess such strength. Who exactly are you? Lu Yin barked, and his body suddenly vanished as he pushed reverse step to its limit. It was as if he was using a teleportation array, and 38,000 stars transformed into serious sword technique that slashed down. At the same time, Lu Yin's eyes transformed into runes that weakened Yi Qing's rune lines. Yi Qing raised a hand and used his secret technique, Banish. However, he did not banish Lu Yin himself but rather serious sword technique. Even though Lu Yin had used the 14th sword to display serious sword technique, he was still suppressed. Yi Qing's use of Banish far surpassed that of the Prime Clear and the others. Lu Yin released his hand and serious sword technique transformed into stars that revolved around him. He then struck out with a palm using serious palm. Yi Qing's eyes also transformed into runes that met Lu Yin's eyes. They weakened each other and they both struck out with their palms at the same time. Dozens of palms collided, but neither side could do anything to the other. Gradually Lu Yin began to feel pain. Previously he had not felt any pain even when they had used their strongest attacks, but now he suddenly thought of something. You can magnify the 5 senses? Magnifying the 5 senses was also a secret technique of the Hall of Honor. If Yi Qing could use Banish, then he could also magnify the 5 senses. Chapter 1965. Yi Qing sneered. I've already told you that you're not on the same level as me. He then slapped out with both hands to meet Lu Yin's palms. Yi Qing then grabbed Lu Yin tightly. Behind Lu Yin another Yi Qing walked out. Lu Yin sensed this with his domain and was shocked. Soul splitting? How is that possible? Leaf King's lips curled up. It's over. The Leaf King behind Lu Yin slapped at the back of Lu Yin's head, but at the critical moment his attack was invisibly blocked. Source box array, flow diversion diagram. The other Leaf King's attack was extremely powerful, and the flow diversion diagram split his strength into thousands of streaks of light that swept out in all directions. At that moment, another Leaf King walked out from Lu Yin's side. The Lingling clan's soul-splitting battle technique allowed one to split into 3, and this was the third Leaf King. The third Leaf King slapped at Lu Yin's head, but his hands were grabbed by the Leaf King to control his body. The flow diversion diagram blocked the Leaf King behind him. From the Leaf King's point of view, Lu Yin would not be able to dodge this attack. Lu Yin's gaze turned cold and the star-scattered chessboard appeared beneath his feet. Reversal. Strangely, the third Leaf King's palm inexplicably returned to its original trajectory, and the space around it was completely restored. This was reversal. The attacker affected the space around them and reversal restored the space around them. In order to restore space, the attacker's attack had to be returned to its original path. Based on Lu Yin's current realm, he could make the third Leaf King's attack return to the previous second. 1 second was more than enough. Lu Yin stared in front of him as his astral sources enlarged one by one. The Leaf King that had been holding on to him suddenly disappeared and then reappeared. He had been absorbed into Lu Yin's astral sources. This was the profound creation realm's control. Lu Yin's control of star energy had reached the profound creation realm, and after breaking through to become an envoy, it had taken him some time to adapt. His control of astral sources had also reached the profound creation realm. The Leaf King was stunned and looked at Lu Yin in shock. You actually... Lu Yin waved his hand, and the stars gathered once more as Sirius slashed out. The 14th sword tore apart the 2 Leaf Kings that had appeared behind Lu Yin. Lu Yin pointed his sword at the Leaf King. You really do surprise me. The Hall of Honor, the Hui clan and the Lingling clan. Who exactly are you? The Hall of Honor's secret techniques and the Hui clan's battle techniques are one thing, but the Lingling clan's soul-splitting technique is their inherited battle technique. Without the Lingling clan's bloodline, it's impossible to learn it. How did you learn it? Leaf King's gaze was cold. There are no inherited battle techniques in my eyes. At this point, his eyes suddenly widened and they were filled with excitement. I remember now. For you to be able to cultivate to this level in just a few decades, your bloodline should be quite extraordinary. It should be worth researching. Lu Yin's gaze swept past the Leaf King, and he looked at the giant tree floating in the sky. The second Night King was still trapped inside, but Lu Yin did not know if the second Night King was doing this on purpose or if he was faking it. Even now the second Night King had not come out. Furthermore, the Leaf King did not seem worried at all, and he even had the time to talk. But it was hard to say. The second Night King, Mao Ding, could not bear to use the sealed cage technique to kill him, so he might as well take this opportunity to sit on the mountain and watch the tigers fight. You've only just become an emissary, yet you're able to reach this level. You surprise me, Lu Yin, but it's a pity that you'll have to stop here. Leaf King stretched his arms and smiled. I heard that you're close with Master Yuan. Do you know what battle technique he cultivates? Lu Yin was confused. Master Yuan's battle technique? It's called the martial technique. This battle technique's initial power is very weak. It's just a technique that analyzes other people's battle techniques and assists one's own to increase their power. The more you study and observe other people's battle techniques, the stronger the technique becomes. Master Yuan's delay in breaking through to the seventh tribulation is related to this martial technique. But I can tell you that he's far inferior to me when it comes to cultivating the martial technique. Today I'll show you what a true martial technique is. With that, the Leaf King bent his fingers, causing a strange fluctuation to distort the surroundings and spread out to the entire outside world. This was the shifting stars leaf technique, and the Leaf King had not only used it on Lu Yin but also on the entire outside world. Regardless of whether it was astral sources or star energy, they all transformed into fallen leaves that drifted throughout the outside world. This scene was extremely spectacular. It was as if fallen leaves had replaced the air, and as far as the eye could see, there were only fallen leaves. Leaf King suddenly charged towards Lu Yin with a strange gait that was close to being reversed. Lu Yin was shocked, but the Leaf King appeared in front of him and reached out to grab him. Lu Yin instinctively struck out with his palm, but because his astral sources had been shifted, he could not use serious or other battle techniques. He could only rely on his physical strength, and the Leaf King was the same. Lu Yin had never feared anyone when it came to physical strength. Boom, 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 boom. Explosions rang out continuously, each one representing a blow from Lu Yin and the Leaf King. This kind of endless battle should have lasted for a long time, but Lu Yin's palm was actually numb. It was not the five senses amplification technique, nor was it the Leaf King suppressing him. Lu Yin did not understand why, but after a dozen or so exchanges, his right palm was completely numb, and he had no choice but to use his left palm to resist. There was a thump, and Lu Yin was sent flying back dozens of meters. He looked at his hands in shock and then at the Leaf King. You found the weakness of the vacant palm? The Leaf King sneered. Every battle technique has a weakness. The Hui family's Wanxiang breaking secret technique could find the weakness, but the martial true technique, when cultivated to great success, far surpasses the Hui family's secret technique. This is the Hall of Honor's ultimate technique, but it's a pity that no one apart from Yuanshi has tried to learn it. Lu Yin, you will be the most talented person to die under the martial true technique. Lu Yin used reverse step to evade. The vacant palm had a weakness that even he had not known about, but the Leaf King had been able to see through it. Perhaps the Leaf King had not seen through it, but rather analyzed it through the martial true technique. Since this technique was so powerful, there was no need for Lu Yin to continue fighting. The longer they fought, the more he would be injured. The star-shifting leaf was paired with the martial true technique. In this space, anyone who did not have the strength to completely suppress the Leaf King would be beaten up. Lu Yin used reverse step to evade, but the Leaf King continued to chase after him, his speed increasing as he analyzed reverse step with the martial true technique. Lu Yin did not believe that the Leaf King would be able to analyze reverse step. Behind him, the Leaf King stared at Lu Yin's reverse step and his expression changed. How could he not see through this footwork technique? The Leaf King was extremely confident in the martial true technique, but he still could not see through this footwork technique. Lu Yin was clearly retreating, but he was actually moving forward. The Leaf King's eyes lit up when he thought of this. Lu Yin was a treasure trove in his eyes. He had so many battle techniques and secret techniques, but now he had actually seen a footwork technique that was connected to time and space. If he had known earlier, he would not have waited for Lu Yin to shed all pretense of cordiality. He would have set up a trap to kill Lu Yin the moment he entered Shamrock Enterprises' main world. How is it? Did you analyze it? Lu Yin asked as he looked back. The Leaf King was astonished. You intentionally wanted me to analyze this footwork technique? Lu Yin was calm. I also wanted to see the limits of your martial true technique. The Leaf King sighed. I can't analyze this footwork technique of yours. Let's make a deal. You can't kill me with the second Night King trapped. With this footwork technique, I might not be able to do anything to you. We can form an alliance and I can teach you whatever you want to learn. I can even give you all of Shamrock Enterprises' resources. All you have to do is give me that sapling. How about that? Lu Ying laughed. Aren't you confident that you can kill me with the martial true technique? The Leaf King's eyes narrowed. As long as there's enough time, the martial true technique can definitely analyze this footwork technique of yours. If you insist on fighting to the death, then we'll see how long it takes for the second Night King to escape and how long you can survive my analysis. Do you want to bet? Lu Ying shook his head and sighed. It seems like you really don't have the confidence to analyze this footwork technique. Then it's worthless. Let me ask you a question. Have you heard of the General Appointment Platform? As he spoke, the platform appeared in front of Lu Ying and floated in the void, emitting a metallic sound. The Leaf King was astonished. The General Appointment Platform? The Leaf King's expression suddenly changed. The Lu family's General Appointment Platform? Lu Yin's expression changed. The Leaf King actually knew about it? Not just anyone knew about the Lu family's General Appointment Platform, especially the Fifth Mainland. After the primeval surnames had left, the Fifth Mainland hated them and had intentionally erased their history. Aside from a small number of people, no one knew that the Lu family had an innate gift for General Appointment Platform. Not even the masters of the Innerverse, 8 Great Flow Zones, knew about it. How did the Leaf King know about it? The Leaf King's identity was definitely not simple. He had learned many things, but he had always hidden them. I'm even more curious about you now. You even know about my Lu family's General Appointment Platform. Who exactly are you, Leaf King? Lu Ying was filled with vigilance and curiosity. I didn't expect you to be from the Lu family. You even have the talent to be a general. Even in the Lu family, you would be considered a direct descendant. No wonder you've reached your current level in such a short time. Seems like the Lu family has been helping you. Those primeval surnames haven't forgotten about this place, and they've been plotting against this place all this time, haven't they? Lu Ying felt more at ease after hearing this. The Leaf King didn't know anything about him, which meant that the Leaf King couldn't receive information on Elder Chan's level. From the Leaf King's words, it seemed like the Leaf King didn't know what had happened in the Astral Tree domain either. Of course, it was also possible that the Leaf King had been to the Astral Tree domain before, just like the head judge. At that time, the Lu family had still existed, and the 4 cardinal scales had not been established. Seems like you know quite a bit about the Lu family. Lu Ying didn't expose the Leaf King. Yi King's eyes flickered and his heart sank. He didn't care about Lu Ying no matter how high Lu Ying went. However, if Lu Ying had the Lu family behind him, then things were completely different. That was the Lu family, a colossus that stood at the pinnacle of the Fifth Mainland. As far as Yi King knew, the Lu family had always stood at the peak of the Fifth Mainland, and no one dared to defy them. This was especially true for the General Appointment Platform. Anyone from the Lu family who had one was an invincible existence. The Leaf King had never dreamed that Lu Ying was actually from the Lu family. There were many people with the surname Lu in the universe, so why did it have to be that family? No, if Lu Ying was from the Lu family, then there was even less to be afraid of. This region of the universe was hostile to the primeval surnames, and while the Lu family was powerful, it wasn't enough to completely influence this region. The Leaf King had read about Lu Yin's history. Although it was a miracle, it hadn't been smooth sailing and Lu Ying had almost died several times. If someone from the Lu family had been helping him, then why was it so difficult? Chapter 1966. Any random expert from the Lu family would be able to crush this region of space. Yi King looked at Lu Ying fiercely, and there was even a hint of excitement in his eyes. You're from the Lu family. The Hall of Honor probably doesn't know about your identity. Otherwise, even if they didn't kill you, they would have chased you away. It must be a coincidence that you're here, or else why would a direct descendant of the Lu family be here? There's also another possibility. You made a mistake in the Lu family and were abandoned. Lu Ying sneered. You have quite a lot of ideas. Yi King sneered. It doesn't matter if you have someone from the Lu family backing you, you're going to die today. Leaving you alive is just a disaster, so I might as well take a gamble. If the Lu family helps you, I'll admit defeat. Lu Ying shook his head. There's no need for the Lu family to do anything. Once the general appointing platform appears, you won't have a chance. Yi King sneered. Even the Lu family's general appointing platform requires astral sources to display its power. Besides, with your ability, how many experts can you summon? Stop being so pretentious and prepare to die. Before the general appointing platform had appeared, Yi King had wanted to negotiate an alliance with Lu Yin. Now that the platform had appeared, however, he was no longer willing to do so. Lu Yin's bloodline was too attractive to him, and he desperately wanted to obtain it. Besides, the second Night King hadn't made a move yet, so Yi King did. That tree was split into 2 layers, and with the second Night King's strength, he should be able to break through the second layer. He should be breaking through the first layer right now, but he still hadn't broken through the second layer. Yi King could understand the second Night King's thoughts. If that was the case, then he would kill Lu Yin and steal his bloodline. Lu Yin was disdainful as he had yet to display his true strength. Not to mention the Reaper transformation, even the 3 stages had been sealed off. Using the general appointment platform today was just an attempt to test out a new way of fighting, one that used death chi to replace astral sources. He had learned this from Tiando. "Summon the generals with my blood," Lu Yin said. Outside the general's appointment platform, figures appeared one after another. This was Lu Yin using death chi to summon generals. There were a total of 5 people, and all of them were emissaries. They were the Amethyst Beast, Songzhou Dragon King Zhou Xian, and the Cultivator from the 6th Mainland Stone Realm. Yi King was shocked. "Impossible. How can you summon these people without astral sources? These people must be using astral sources." Lu Yin was too lazy to explain to him. Although the 5 emissaries were not as strong as Yi Wang could not use his astral source and could only use his physical body to cast the Shang Wu Tru technique. With the immortality of the 5 emissaries, it was still possible for them to hold him back. Following Lu Yin's command, the 5 envoys charged towards the Leaf King. Yi King casually punched through Dragon King's body. Dragon King was unable to resist, but he quickly reappeared and charged towards Yi King. These 5 emissaries were to be killed by the Yi King. All they had to do was keep him occupied. Lu Yin tried to use Death's Guard, a defensive battle technique that Skydu had taught him. Not long after, a layer of death chi formed on the surface of his body like an eggshell. Leaf King fiercely broke through the 5 emissaries' blockade and attacked Lu Yin with a palm strike. His palm landed on the deathly aura barrier and Leaf King was forced back a step. His face paled. What was this? Behind him, the 5-star emissaries once again came to entangle him. Leaf King was furious, but there was nothing he could do. This was the power of the Lu family's general appointment platform. Once summoned, the target would be immortal unless the Lu family was destroyed or the summoned general's power was exhausted. Leaf King finally understood that Lu Yin was not using his astral source to cast the general appointment platform. He was relying on death chi. Legend had it that Lu Yin had obtained the God of Death's inheritance and cultivated death chi. Back then he had been captured by the Human Alliance and transformed by death chi, causing a huge commotion. "That's death chi." Leaf King gritted his teeth, unwilling to accept this. Lu Yin raised his head. "It's my turn now." He then covered himself with a layer of death energy. He raised a hand and used reverse step to close in on Leaf King, reaching out to grab him. Leaf King reflexively struck out with a palm at Lu Yin, and the 2 palms collided once more. Both palms retreated at the same time, but at this moment, death energy appeared on the back of Leaf King's hand, transforming into layers of chains that extended outwards. Leaf King was shocked and tried to shake the chains off, but how could he do so easily after being corroded by death chi? Lu Yin put away the general appointment platform and pulled the chains towards him. He then used death chi to form a sword in his left hand and slashed out. With a whoosh, half of Leaf King's body was cut open, but there was still no blood. Lu Yin was shocked. "I'd like to see what you are." He used the chains of death chi to bind Leaf King and chased after him with his sword. Not only was Leaf King's body corroded by death chi, but his movements were also restricted. Death chi's power was completely different from the astral sources, and his body, which could defend against Lu Yin's palm attacks, was not very effective against death chi's sword. These were 2 completely different types of power. "Lu Yin, are you really going to fight to the death?" Leaf King roared. Lu Yin sneered. "You try it." Leaf King fled and the stars in the sky disappeared. He once again grasped the astral source and used exile in an attempt to push Lu Yin away. However, Lu Yin's body was pushed away, and the chains of death qi continued to bind him. No matter how far Lu Yin retreated, the death qi remained imprinted on the back of Leaf King's hand. Even cutting off his arm was useless, as Leaf King's body had been imprinted by death qi's sword. It was also at this moment that Lu Yin experienced the terror of death qi. In the past he had only been able to use the death transformation, but it had been quickly exhausted. To him, death qi was more like an explosive power. Now, however, it was different. He tried to use death qi, and it was different from the current cultivation system of the universe. It was able to suppress Leaf King. This did not mean that death qi's cultivation system surpassed the astral source's cultivation system, but rather that Leaf King had no way of resisting this special power. If it had been senior brother Qing Ping who was at the same realm as Leaf King, then death qi might not have been effective. Leaf King had been imprinted by death qi, and there was no way he could defeat Lu Yin. At that moment, the tree that had trapped the second Night King cracked open. Lu Yin's brows rose. Was the second Night King really trapped? He had been suppressed by Leaf King, and the second Night King had no hope of escaping. Now that he was suppressing Leaf King, the second Night King must have helped him. Leaf King's expression turned ugly. The second Night King must have seen that he had no chance of winning and had decided to come out to end him. At this point, Leaf King wanted to escape from the outside world to the World Mountains. Only the World Mountains could save him. Over the years he had contributed countless pills to the Hall of Honor and contributed greatly to the World Mountains. As long as he could escape to the World Mountains, he would at least not die. The sky above the outside world cracked open and Leaf King stepped out and disappeared. At the same time, the second Night King walked out of the tree. Lu Yin's eyes flashed coldly, and the star chessboard appeared beneath his feet. Plan secret word: retraction. The cracked sky suddenly recovered, and Leaf King seemed to be dragged back into the outside world by an invisible force. The plan's secret word had reached the realm of retraction, and it was terrifying. It was no wonder that the Su family had not been able to comprehend it after so many years. It was also no wonder that they had once said that Su Wangtian was not an ordinary ancestor. This mysterious power that could restore space reminded Lu Yin of the desolate ancestor's words. Although it was a completely different power, the mystical aspects were similar. The plan's secret word dragged Leaf King back, and the second Night King immediately attacked with a finger. This time, Leaf King no longer had the strength to resist the second Night King's attack, and he was sent crashing into the ground. His body was covered in cracks, but there was still no blood. Lu Yin landed and looked down at Leaf King, who was sprawled on the ground. The second Night King stared at him as well. Leaf King no longer had a path of escape. Leaf King slowly looked up and saw Lu Yin. His entire body crumbled. You can't kill me. I've contributed greatly to the Hall of Honor, and I've supported the Great Eastern Alliance. I've never had any enmity towards you. If it weren't for you, Xia Yi would still be my prisoner. You used Yu Mu's betrayal to give me the astral source pill and plotted against me. If I hadn't coincidentally created the sapling, I wouldn't even have known about the pill. Also, Lu Yin sized up Leaf King. What exactly are you? Leaf King panted heavily and his eyes flickered. Lu Yin sneered. Think of a good excuse. If I don't believe you, you'll suffer a fate worse than death. You know the Hui family, the Hall of Honor, and even the Lingling clan's inherited battle techniques. You also know the truth behind the primeval surnames and that the Lu family has the innate gift of the general appointing platform. Tell me something that I can believe, or I'll let you know what despair is. Leaf King stared at Lu Yin and gritted his teeth. If I tell you, will you let me go? Lu Yin squatted down and met Leaf King's gaze. Let's see if you have any value. Yuwang's eyes widened. Of course. I can use the astral source pill to help you monitor the whereabouts of everyone who has it. I can even detonate the pill to create a powerful attack. Even if your opponent is at the same level as you, they will definitely lose if they are disturbed by the pill. That's how I killed Yu Mu. Lu Yin nodded as the truth behind Yu Mu's death had been revealed. Not a bad use. Continue. Let me remind you that Balsam is still in the outside world and I don't know how much she knows about you. If the two of you don't agree, then it won't be good. Leaf King's expression changed and in the end he sighed. The Hui family, the Hall of Honor, the Lingling clan, and even the true scripture of Ian evolution were all things that I learned over the years. I relied on my innate gift. Lu Yin was stunned. Innate gift? Leaf King bitterly replied, actually I'm human, really human. My innate gift is absorption. It was this innate gift that allowed me to transform my body into a special tree that had fused with the mother tree's material. It was also because of this innate gift that I was able to cultivate the Lingling clan's inherited battle techniques and obtain all sorts of battle techniques. I even managed to cultivate the true martial technique to a level that surpassed Master Yuan's. The astral source pills are actually the seeds of my current body. They aren't pills at all but rather my power. They contain a trace of my power and I can sense the location of every single astral source pill. The reason why I sent Balsam to test you back then was because the astral source pills that she had given you had escaped her control. This is the truth about me and there's nothing special about it. Of course, I know about the primeval surnames and the Lu family because I also came from the era of the Daoist sect. Back then, I was just a small character who had just stepped onto the path of cultivation. It was also during that era that I obtained the mother tree's bark, and I used it to absorb and transform. Many years later I walked out again. If it wasn't for the fact that I had absorbed and transformed for such a long time, I would definitely be much stronger than I am now. At the very least, I would have a power level of over 1,000,000, and I might even have broken through to become a half-ancestor. The transformation of my body gave me boundless potential, but it also limited my cultivation. Lu Yin quietly listened to Leaf King speak without interrupting him. When Leaf King finished, he asked, "What was that tree that trapped the second Night King?" Chapter 1967. The Leaf King's eyes flickered. He didn't want to say anything, but under Lu Yin's gaze he still answered, "It's that piece of bark from the mother tree. I've been keeping it with me and nourishing it with my innate gift. It's a hidden treasure." Lu Yin's eyes lit up as he looked into the distance. Such a large piece of bark from the mother tree. He could get whatever he wanted. "Are you a human or a tree now?" The Leaf King smiled bitterly. "I don't know. I could be human or tree." "What would you do if you obtained the sapling?" Lu Yin asked. The Leaf King's eyes flashed. "Nurture it and wait for it to grow, of course." "Why?" "Can be my clone. The Lingling clan's soul split battle technique isn't a real clone. It's just a temporary battle technique. I want to have a technique similar to Progenitor Chen's 9 clones technique. If I want to know how the sapling was born, I can try using other astral source pills to produce it. That way I'll have countless clones while my main body can cultivate until I become a half-step ancestor. At that time no one in the 5th mainland will be my match," the Leaf King said, his face flushed red with excitement. It sounded like there was nothing wrong with what the Leaf King had said, but Lu Yin felt that something was off. The second Night King had followed Lu Yin for a long time, and he knew what Lu Yin meant with a single glance. Lu Yin wanted him to use his spiritual force illusion to force the Leaf King to reveal the truth. With the second Night King's strength, the Leaf King definitely wouldn't be able to resist the illusion. Not long after, the Leaf King's eyes glazed over as he repeated what he had said. Lu Yin stared at him. "Why are you so desperate to obtain the sapling?" The Leaf King's eyes were still glazed over, but his expression was fervent. "I wanted to become my clone and research more clones. In the future I'll be invincible in the 5th mainland and everyone will have to respect me. What Hall of Honor? What Daoist sect? What mother tree? I'm everything in this universe." Lu Yin retracted his gaze and looked at the second Night King. The second Night King nodded, proving that what the Leaf King had said in the illusion was true. Lu Yin sighed. It seemed that he had been overthinking things. Just as he was about to have the second Night King dispel the illusion, he heard footsteps behind him. It was Yu Er. Yu Er had been hiding underground all this time. Although she was frozen, she had been lucky. Otherwise, she would have died. Yu Er's voice. Lu Yin was stunned and he looked back at her. "What did you say?" Yu Er blinked. Her face was covered in dust and she looked a little dirty, but it made her look even more adorable. "Yuang is lying. He once said that no matter what kind of expert used their spiritual energy on him, it would be useless." "Nothing worked?" Why? Lu Yin was puzzled. Yu Er shook her head. "I don't know, but..." She wiped her face. "He did say that." Lu Yin slowly turned to look at Yuang. The Leaf King was still in a daze. He was still immersed in the illusion. Lu Yin stared at Yuang for a while. Compared to Yuang, he trusted Yu Er more. Yu Er wanted to live and there was no conflict of interest between them. She even wanted to rely on Lu Yin, so she shouldn't be lying. However, Yu Er's words could not prove that the Leaf King was truly immune to the Second Night King's spiritual battle technique. As he thought about this, he looked to the right. His gaze traversed the distance and saw the headquarters of Shamrock Enterprises. He saw countless people trembling and fainting on the ground. He saw the little Leaf King lying on the ground, his life or death unknown. She looked up at Lu Yin at the same time as Lu Yin. "Come here," Lu Yin said indifferently. She frowned and thought about it for a moment. She then stood up and stepped through the void to arrive beside Lu Yin. She saw that the Leaf King's eyes were lifeless and bitter. "Alliance Master Lu, how do you want to deal with us?" she asked. Lu Yin replied, "It's up to you." "I don't understand." She was very calm. Lu Yin asked, "How much do you know about the Leaf King?" She didn't even look at Lu Yin as she continued to stare at the Leaf King. "I won't say a word about him." Lu Yin's eyes narrowed. "Aren't you afraid of death?" She walked towards the Leaf King, crouched down and hugged him. "He saved me and gave me everything." Lu Yin frowned as this was troublesome. However, this also proved that the Leaf King was lying. He had previously threatened to compare her answers, but now it seemed that the Leaf King was certain that she wouldn't say anything. The Leaf King had pretended to be threatened by Lu Yin to reveal most of the truth. If a lie was to be believed, it would only need to be 90% true and 10% false. The Leaf King had the ability and motive to conceal that 10% truth. "What a pity. It would have been fine if you had told me everything, but since you're not saying anything, I can't believe the Leaf King's words." She closed her eyes in agony. "I'd rather kill the wrong person than let them go." Lu Yin waved a hand. "Destroy him." The Second Night King's aura surged. The Leaf King's originally lifeless eyes suddenly narrowed. "Wait." He pushed her away and looked at Lu Yin pleadingly. "Don't kill me. It wasn't easy for me to survive from the era of the Daoist sect to this day. I can live longer and I can truly achieve immortality. Alliance Master Lu, don't kill me. I'm valuable to you and I can grant you immortality." Lu Yin was amused. "Do you really think that I care about immortality? That's just an excuse." The Leaf King pleaded loudly, "But I really do have a way to grant you immortality. It's impossible for humans to live forever, but there are too many things in the universe that can grant immortality. The Mother Tree is one of them. Throughout human history there have been many breakdowns, but the Mother Tree has never been broken. I've absorbed the Mother Tree's matter, and give me some time to fuse this matter into your body so that you can become a Mother Tree like me and achieve immortality." Lu Yin raised a brow. "You want me to become a tree like you? If I abandon my human identity, then why don't I become a corpse king? Join the everlasting race?" They also promised immortality. The Leaf King gritted his teeth. "That's flesh and blood without emotions. So what if I have immortality?" Lu Yin raised his hand and cut off the Leaf King's arm with edge. The Leaf King's body was flung far away. "Look at you, you don't even have flesh and blood. One has abandoned emotions while the other has abandoned flesh and blood. Neither is human. As for me, I only want to be human, not a monster." The Leaf King had lost both his arms and he struggled to get up. "I can help you study space. That flower can really be studied." Lu Yin's lips curled up. "My secret word plan has already touched upon the domain of space. It's far more useful than that flower of yours. I can help you absorb the energy of others. Alliance Master Lu, when we first fought, I was able to resist your vacant palm because I absorbed your energy," the Leaf King shouted. Lu Yin did not understand. "What do you mean?" The Leaf King panted heavily and said in a low voice, "I know that you didn't come with good intentions. I didn't think that I would be able to hide the matter of capturing the sapling from you, so I made arrangements in advance. When we were observing the flower, you were sitting in a position where I could absorb your energy. At that time I absorbed your physical energy and fused it into my body, giving me the strength to resist your vacant palm for a short period of time. The tree that trapped the Second Night King is my main body, and this body of mine is just a transfer of my consciousness. There's no way for me to resist your physical energy. Only by absorbing your physical energy can I do that. You were able to cut off my arm with a casual wave of your hand because I had exhausted all the energy I absorbed." Lu Yin was surprised. "Your innate gift is very useful." The Leaf King relaxed. "Yes, it's very useful. As long as Alliance Master Lu doesn't kill me, I can help you absorb the energy of others and help you step onto the path of true invincibility. We can research space and immortality together, and Shamrock Enterprises can help you earn a lot of resources. Alliance Master Lu, killing me won't do you any good, but keeping me alive will allow me to do many things for you. The second Night King looked at Lu Yin and he was tempted. This Leaf King was indeed useful, and no one knew better than the second Night King how difficult it was to survive from the era of the Daoist sect until now. After a moment of silence, Lu Yin clasped his hands behind his back. I'm very tempted. The Leaf King's eyes gleamed. What a pity. Lu Yin's expression was cold. You must be hiding something. Being able to survive from the era of the Daoist sect until now proves your worth, but it also proves that you're very powerful. Powerful people can either become my friend or... Lu Yin did not finish his sentence, but his meaning was clear. He was apprehensive of the Leaf King and did not want to let him live. The second Night King's aura surged once more, and he stared at the Leaf King with murderous intent. The Leaf King's expression changed. Wait, I said that the reason I want to take the sapling is because it's the mother tree. The Leaf King's words shocked both Lu Yin and the second Night King. Balsam Ji and Yu Er did not know anything about mother trees, but they did. What did you say? The two asked at the same time as if they had heard something unbelievable. The Leaf King seemed to have exhausted all of his energy to say those words. He lowered his head and chuckled, though it was unknown whether he was laughing at himself or at the others. Lu Yin did not rush him and simply waited. The Leaf King slowly raised his head and let out a long breath. I absorbed the mother tree's matter and became half human, half tree. The astral source pill is both my power and the power of the mother tree's matter. The sapling was born from the astral source pill, so there's only one possibility. It relied on the mother tree's matter to grow. I don't know how you did it, Alliance Master Lu, but logically speaking, it shouldn't have been able to produce a sapling just by relying on the mother tree's matter. However, it actually appeared. I don't understand the process, but since it appeared, it means that it's the mother tree. Obtaining it is equivalent to obtaining the complete mother tree, and I can rely on it to take root in the astral source universe and absorb astral sources to strengthen myself. I can also rely on it to absorb more of the mother tree's matter and perfect my body. It's very useful to me, and who wouldn't care if they found out that the sapling was the mother tree? Since ancient times there has only been one mother tree. It was born in outer space and could not be planted. But now a second one has appeared and it is truly immortal. I can replace it and become the true mother tree to achieve immortality. Alliance Master Lu, with the sapling and my help, you can live forever. You really can. Everyone wants to live forever, and even if you don't want your body to turn into a tree, I can still research that substance and accelerate the sapling's growth. You can become a second mother tree. Lu Yin's eyes widened in shock as he continued. Alliance Master Lu, with this sapling and my help, you can live forever. Chapter 1968. Lu Yin looked at his cosmic ring and saw that the sapling was currently inside Mount Supreme. Was it really the mother tree? According to Yi King, it was possible that Lu Yin had upgraded the astral source pill's substance, which was unique to the mother tree. Was it because of that substance that the sapling had been created? Is it very difficult to extract the mother tree's substance? Lu Yin asked. Yi King heaved a sigh of relief as Lu Yin's question gave him hope of survival. He was valuable. I've lived for so many years and tried, but aside from my innate gift, there's no other way to absorb it. I dare say that as long as I die, no one in this universe will be able to obtain the mother tree's substance, and no one will be able to help you achieve immortality. This was Yi King's greatest value, and it was his innate gift of absorption. Lu Yin nodded. I believe you. If it was possible, this news would have spread long ago. Then show me how valuable your innate gift of absorption is. Yi King heaved a sigh of relief. If Lu Yin was tempted, then he wouldn't have to die. As he thought about it, he suddenly looked at Yu Er, and his broken arm suddenly twisted as he slammed a palm into Yu Er's back. Yu Er was shocked. Alliance Master Lu, save me. Lu Yin didn't move as Yi King's attack hadn't been heavy. He hadn't intended to kill Yu Er, but rather to display his innate gift of absorption. He had heard Yu Mu speak of Yu Er before, and although Yu Mu's words were biased, this woman had betrayed Yi King without hesitation. She had no loyalty, and this was a good opportunity to intimidate her. Yu Er's face paled and her body fell to the ground. Yi King's broken arm flew back to his body and his cracked body recovered slightly. This is absorption. I absorbed part of her vitality. Lu Yin was surprised. If you were given enough people, you would be able to recover directly? Yi King shook his head. It's not that easy. Most people wouldn't be able to withstand it. If she was an emissary, I would be able to recover even more. So your innate gift of absorption can only be used on your own body? Lu Yin asked. Yi King replied, that's right. Only I can extract the substance. Lu Yin was disappointed, destroyed. Leaf King was shocked. Alliance leader Lu. Before he could finish, the second Night King did not wait. A finger pierced through Leaf King's body, tearing him apart. At the same time, the tree that had trapped the second Night King was also torn apart. Leaf King was now completely dead. Lu Yin sighed. If the innate gift wasn't directly used on him, then he could use his Dai's possession to borrow the Leaf King's innate gift. The Leaf King wouldn't have to die and he could be imprisoned in Mount Supreme. However, if the innate gift was only used on him, then it wouldn't have any value. Even if the sapling was the mother tree, it would take some time before it could take root in the stellar source universe and absorb the stellar source. Who knew how long it would take? Relying on the Leaf King's materials alone was like trying to put out a burning cart of firewood with a cup of water. He had no interest in nurturing more saplings, so he could only try one method, which was to extract the materials directly from the Leaf King's body. He remembered that the sapling had grown slightly after absorbing the star source pill. Thinking of this, he took out Mount Supreme and was about to release the sapling, but before he could do that, the general appointment platform appeared again. In my name, general appointment. With that, the Leaf King's image imprinted itself onto the platform, and a true expert appeared on it. The Leaf King was an expert that could rival the Flying Willows. In a one-on-one battle, Lu Yin was certain that none of the Flying Willows would be a match for him. Seeing the Leaf King's vivid image imprinted on the platform, Lu Yin stared deeply at the platform. Sometimes he wondered what the general appointment platform was. Some people said that the Lu family's general appointment platform was inhumane, as it killed its opponents but still used them without end. But was that really the case? Lu Yin looked at the Leaf King's corpse. Even after being summoned, the Leaf King's corpse didn't change at all. The corpses of the people who had been summoned didn't change either. The summoned corpses weren't enslaved corpses, and the summoned corpses were either made of stellar source or death chi. There was no flesh or blood. The general appointment platform was like a replicator in battle. Anyone who had fought with him would be recorded by the general appointment platform. Their movement patterns, combat skills, cultivation methods, talents, and secret techniques would all be copied. Once the general appointment platform was called, these abilities would be displayed. The strongest evidence was that these people hadn't used any battle techniques, and they wouldn't be able to use them even after being summoned. This was the true nature of the general appointment platform. It was merely a replication, or rather a recording, not enslaving. The reason why those people hated and feared the general appointment platform was because the person who summoned the general appointment platform even had their appearance copied. Who could stand their parents, relatives, and disciples of the same sect being enslaved, even if they were enslaved in appearance? Lu Yin retracted the platform and released the sapling. The moment the sapling was released, it looked around and saw Lu Yin. Its leaves curled up in joy and it jumped onto Lu Yin. Lu Yin laughed. Stop playing around and look at this. The Leaf King was dead and his body was torn apart. However, there was no flesh or blood and it looked more like a tree that had been torn apart. The sapling's leaves swayed and it leaped over to the Leaf King's corpse. It circled around the corpse, and when its branches touched the corpse, it began to visibly grow. The second Night King was shocked and his worldview was turned upside down. Lu Yin was delighted, as it had indeed worked. The Leaf King had absorbed the mother tree's matter, and the sapling that had been born from the mother tree's matter could naturally absorb the matter from the Leaf King's body. The matter would eventually return to the mother tree's body, but it would still be a small mother tree. Lu Yin inexplicably recalled the Leaf King's words. Could that matter really allow one to live forever? No matter how the Leaf King changed, the matter remained the same. Whether it entered his body, dispersed into each of his astral origin pills, or was absorbed by the sapling, nothing changed. What kind of matter was that? Could the mother tree really be immortal? If a person could perfectly absorb that matter, would that person really be immortal? Lu Yin was somewhat tempted, but he didn't want to become a tree. He watched as the sapling grew at a rate that could be seen with the naked eye. In the blink of an eye, it was already dozens of meters tall and it was still growing. He looked at Balsam. How big is the Leaf King's main body? Balsam's face was ashen, and she looked at the Leaf King's body that had been torn apart like a tree. Alliance Master Lu, I'm no threat to you. Can you let me stay in this broken world and guard the Leaf King's coffin? Lu Yin quietly watched the sapling grow taller and taller, and he didn't know how big it would become. It wasn't cute at all, it had turned into a tree. In exchange, I can give you the resources that Shamrock Enterprises has accumulated over the years. The Leaf King doesn't have the habit of wearing a cosmic ring, and only he and I know where those resources are. Lu Yin looked at her. Are you threatening me? She calmly replied, I'm just speaking the truth. It was obvious that she had lost all hope. Threats were useless against such a person. Lu Yin thought about it. You can't leave this world, but I can let you live. Balsam wasn't surprised. Rather than kill her, it would be better to exchange her for a huge amount of resources. Anyone would know how to calculate this, as those were the resources that Shamrock Enterprises had accumulated over the years. It was an enormous amount that far surpassed the Innerverse 8 Great Flow Zones. After all, those organizations weren't in the business world. Shamrock Enterprises' medicine was spread all over the Fifth Mainland, and although they couldn't compare to the Mavis Bank, they were still considered wealthy. Lu Yin looked forward to Shamrock Enterprises' resources and watched as the sapling continued to grow. In the blink of an eye, it was already as tall as the outside world and it was still growing. Lu Yin was worried that this world wouldn't be able to contain it. Fortunately, it seemed to be able to control its size and it no longer grew. Instead it shrank, but it was still absorbing the Leaf King's body. Lu Yin didn't know how much the Leaf King had absorbed over the years. That tree had been able to trap the second Night King, which was quite terrifying. Lu Yin believed that the sapling's usage of that material far surpassed the Leaf King's. After all, the Leaf King was a human and relied on his innate gift to absorb and fuse, while the sapling was born from that material. Right, the sapling had taken root in the Astral Source universe, so didn't that mean that it was absorbing Astral Source liquid? Lu Yin's breathing quickened when he saw the path of light that had been used to cheat in the envoy's cultivation. Wait, he seemed to have forgotten something. Lu Yin looked around and his gaze suddenly locked onto the tree that had trapped the second Night King. His figure disappeared and when he reappeared he was beside the tree. Although it had been torn apart, Lu Yin could still tell that this was the mother tree. Lu Yin's eyes lit up. How many arrays could such a large tree create? His breathing quickened as this wasn't a few dozen or a few hundred. There had to be at least 10,000 of them. He could almost see himself leading the Lu Xianjun army and releasing the arrays as tens of thousands of enlighters swept through the universe. Although the attacks of tens of thousands of enlighters couldn't affect the envoys, that was only in terms of destructive power. With the top experts of both sides restrained, the attacks of tens of thousands of enlighters would be enough to determine the outcome of the war. No matter how strong an absolute expert was, they were still just one person. One person could be invincible, but they couldn't conquer an entire civilization. And this was just the beginning. Once the number of arrays reached tens of thousands, or even hundreds of thousands, Lu Yin was confident that he could defeat the Eternals even if he transferred this army to the battlefield on the other side of the astral trees. Lu Yin immediately contacted the Aurora Corporation and asked them to send someone to Shamrock Enterprises World to take away the mother tree. When Zhidong saw the mother tree, his excitement was no less than Lu Yin's. Although the Aurora Fort had to serve Lu Yin and help him create the new universal armor, they could still keep the leftovers. This was crucial for his research. Even after hearing about the miraculous nature of the mother tree, Zhidong didn't give up on his research and tried to find the core materials that could replace the mother tree in creating the arrays. Lu Yin looked at the sapling and rubbed his chin. This fellow was also a mother tree, and since it was so big, its branches should be able to create arrays as well. Perhaps it had sensed Lu Yin's dangerous thoughts, but the sapling suddenly shrank until it was as small as it had been in the beginning. It then hopped over to Lu Yin and jumped onto his shoulder looking very happy. Lu Yin was puzzled. You've absorbed so much but you haven't changed at all? The sapling was very happy and hopped around, its leaves becoming even more verdant. It was very pleasing to the eye and it was very comfortable to look at. Chapter 1969. Can you still grow bigger? Lu Yin asked. The sapling jumped down and wobbled. Its body suddenly grew bigger before shrinking again. It jumped around Lu Yin as if it was dancing, which made Lu Yin dizzy. Alright, stop beating around the bush. Lu Yin grabbed the sapling and looked at it seriously. Can you step into the astral source universe and absorb the astral sources? The sapling's two branches shook, not understanding. However, it was still happy enough to jump around. It felt like it had grown bigger. Lu Yin was speechless. He thought about it for a moment before stepping into the astral source universe and looking at the sapling. The sapling was stunned. Lu Yin had disappeared? It panicked and its branches trembled as it tried to find Lu Yin. It spun around in place and suddenly faced Lu Yin's direction. It jumped up happily and disappeared. Only Yu Er was not an emissary. She watched the sapling disappear and her mouth fell open. This thing? It stepped into the astral source universe? The sapling jumped into the astral source universe and into Lu Yin's arms. Lu Yin laughed. You really can enter the astral source universe. You didn't absorb so much of the Leaf King's matter in vain. Otherwise, I would have raised you for nothing. Ah. The sapling rubbed its leaves against Lu Yin's face happily. Learn from me, Lu Yin said as he began to absorb the astral sources. The sapling swayed back and forth. It did not seem to understand, but it also seemed to find it fun. Gradually, the astral sources gathered, but they were not absorbed by Lu Yin. Instead, they were gathered into the sapling's body. Lu Yin was ecstatic. He was absorbing the astral sources. That's right, the sapling could absorb astral sources, which meant that it could form astral liquid in its body just like the mother tree. This was great. He could finally see the dawn of the emissary realm. But the problem was how to keep it absorbing astral sources. He did not know if the astral source universe would notice if it absorbed too quickly. This was a headache. Lu Yin did not need to worry about this problem. The sapling seemed to like absorbing astral sources. This was its instinct. A person's instinct was to absorb nutrients from food and grow. The sapling's absorption of astral sources was equivalent to absorbing nutrients. It needed to grow as well, and this was its path to growth. Lu Yin had brought the sapling to the astral source universe to absorb half Sirius's astral source, but he did not know how much astral source the sapling had absorbed. From the looks of it, the sapling had absorbed much more astral source than he had, but he did not know exactly how much more astral source it had absorbed. He decided to place the sapling in a place where it could absorb stellar sources at all times without being disturbed. Where should they settle it? After much consideration, he decided to leave the Rossi Empire fortress with the escaped tree. It would be fine as long as someone kept an eye on it. Actually, he could leave the sapling in the Eternal Kingdom, but that would make it too lonely. It didn't like being alone. He didn't treat it as a tree but rather as a child. A child that liked to play and act spoiled. He allowed the sapling to absorb the astral source in astral source universe as he walked out. Now there was a problem in front of him. How should he explain King Ye's death to the Hall of Honor? Although Leaf King was not a member of the Hall of Honor, he had contributed greatly to the Hall of Honor over the years. How many honor points does King Ye have? Lu Yin asked as he watched Balsam collect King Ye's corpse. He hadn't checked his honor points in a long time, but this was an unavoidable problem. The Hall of Honor had to answer to outsiders and they couldn't break the rules. 30, Balsam answered indifferently. Lu Yin frowned. If one had more than 20 honor points, their death would be investigated by the Interstellar Tribunal. They would determine the cause of death and punish those responsible. With his status as a director, he could ignore most people who had more than 20 honor points. However, King Yi was different. Shamrock Enterprises' influence was too great, and they needed to answer to the Hall of Honor. Alliance Master Lu Qingyi has been in seclusion for many years. Basically, no one has seen him, Yu Er said weakly. Her innate gift had been absorbed by King Ye's experiments, and she had almost been crippled. Lu Yin relaxed after hearing Yu Er's words. That was right, King Yi had been in seclusion for many years and no one had seen him. Who would know if he died? As long as no one reported it, it would be fine. Lu Yin looked at Yu Er with admiration. Although this girl was ruthless and unloyal, she was quite quick-witted. When it came to people like her, as long as Lu Yin remained above the masses, she would not betray him. However, she would definitely betray him the moment he fell to the mortal realm. In that case, there was no need to subdue her. He could just use her. You're not bad, Lu Yin said. Yu Er nervously replied, It's my honor to serve Alliance Master. There are many who want to serve me. What can you do? Lu Yin asked. Yu Er had already thought of an excuse. Shamrock Enterprises is spread across the Fifth Mainland, and their management is complex. Over the years I've been assigned to many branch companies, and I can help Alliance Master manage them without anyone noticing anything amiss. I've also thought of a way to control Yen. King Yi and Balsam are in seclusion for many years, so Yen is the one who handles the company's affairs. As long as we control him, Shamrock Enterprises operations will not have any problems. Not only that, but I also know of many hidden seedlings that I believe can be of help to Alliance Master. Lu Yin looked at Balsam. He could not use this woman, but he could keep you heir here. Even if a mere enlighter betrayed him, it would be useless. Besides the resources that King Yi had left behind, there was nothing else that Lu Yin cared about. The natural treasures and countless strange plants that could avoid danger had all been absorbed by the tree the moment it had appeared, except for the flower. Lu Yin looked behind the waterfall and wanted to take the flower away. His domain swept across the outside world, and Lu Yin brought Yen and the unconscious King Yi over. Yan's face was pale when he saw King Ye's corpse and Balsam's ashen face. He was in a daze, and panic and apprehension filled his mind. He did not know what was waiting for him. "Deal with it yourself," Lu Yin said coldly as he looked at Yu Er. Yu Er panted heavily as she stood up and walked over to Yan's side. She smiled. "Secretary Yan." Yan looked up and met Yu Er's eyes. He had known this girl for a long time. She had been a pure and innocent girl who did not know much about the world, but now she was the most vicious and merciless hidden seedling. Yan felt a chill every time he saw her, and he always felt that she would kill anyone she saw. As the president of Shamrock Enterprises and an expert with a power level of over 400,000, Yan rarely feared anyone, especially if the person was not an envoy. Their power level might even be lower than his. However, Yu Er was an exception. He did not know what Yu Er had experienced in the outside world. She looked harmless on the surface, but in reality she was like a butcher. "Secretary Yan, do you want to live?" Yu Er asked, her eyes filled with curiosity. She looked like a girl who was eager to learn. Yan's eyes flashed, and he subconsciously looked at Lu Yin. The battle just now was beyond his comprehension, and any of the aftershocks would have been enough to kill him. Of course he wanted to live. "Yes," Yan replied. Yu Er rolled her eyes. "The Alliance Master can let you live, but he doesn't trust you. You seem to be loyal to King Yi and Balsam." Yan gulped. "It's just my job. I'm the president's secretary, and it has nothing to do with loyalty." "Is that so?" Yu Er pointed at Balsam, whose back was facing them. "That woman is over there. She's looking at you. Please kill the young Leaf King." Yan's eyes narrowed. Balsam's body trembled, and she slowly turned around. Her eyes were filled with coldness and anger as she glared at Yu Er. Yu Er looked at Balsam and smiled. "I'm sorry, sister. I want to live too. Look, didn't you also sell King Ye's resources to survive? The young Leaf King is just one of them." Balsam didn't say anything and just stared at Yu Er. Lu Yin stared at Yu Er deeply. This girl was truly ruthless, and it was no wonder why Yu Mu had warned him to be careful. If Lu Yin had still been an enlighter, then he might not have spared her life. But now, no matter how ruthless she was, she couldn't do anything. The more ruthless she was, the fiercer she would bite her enemies, and perhaps one day she would bare her fangs at Lu Yin. Yan hadn't expected Yu Er to ask him to kill the young Leaf King. He suddenly thought of something and looked at Lu Yin. He had been brought here just now, and so had the young Leaf King. What did that mean? Had Yu Er told Lu Yin about it? Or had Lu Yin thought of this as well? The more he thought about it, the more his heart sank. Lu Yin was curious. "Is the young Leaf King really King Ye's son?" Yu Er replied, "I don't know, but King Yi is very concerned about the young Leaf King." Lu Yin looked at Balsam. She remained silent and didn't say anything. Lu Yin didn't say anything either, as he didn't care about the young Leaf King's status. Perhaps the young Leaf King really was King Ye's son, and perhaps the young Leaf King had left behind before absorbing the mother tree's essence. After all, King Yi had already become a tree, so how could he have a son? It was said that the young Leaf King had been sealed in ice for thousands of years, but that didn't seem right either. Even if he had been sealed in ice, the young Leaf King couldn't have survived from the era of the Daoist sect until now. The young Leaf King definitely wasn't King Ye's son. If the young Leaf King truly cared about the young Leaf King, then it was more likely that the young Leaf King had adopted the young Leaf King. Yan looked at Yu Er and then at Lu Yin. Finally, he glanced at Balsam. Balsam clenched her fists and stared coldly at Yu Er. Yen knew that if he tried to kill the young Leaf King, then he would have to betray King Yi and Balsam for the rest of his life, just like you, heir. What? Secretary Yen, are you unwilling? Then I'll just have to find someone else. Yu heir propped up her chin and blinked innocently. Her appearance made Yen want to vomit, and he wanted to tear her face apart. I understand. Lu Yin didn't continue looking at her. Instead, he went to a certain corner of the outside world. King Ye's resources weren't stored in a cosmic ring, but rather underground, just like the frigid immortal sect's secret vault. Lu Yin had thought that King Ye's collection of resources would be massive, but he hadn't expected it to be this massive. It was a bit too exaggerated. Lu Yin had a similar feeling to when he had first seen the star essence that had been stored in the sixth mainland. At that moment he had seen an endless mountain range that had been completely formed from star essence. At the time he had guessed that there might have been 1 billion or even 10 billion, but now that he thought about it, it was far more than that. The resources that King Yi had stored underground in this world definitely exceeded 100 billion. Chapter 1970. This was 100 billion star essence, and the entire underground mountain range was filled with star essence. It was no wonder why Balsam had been so confident that Lu Yin would not kill her. If he had disagreed, she could have just asked for 100 billion star essence and Lu Yin would have agreed. Balsam had absolute confidence in exchanging 100 billion star essence for a life. How had Yi Wang managed to leave behind so many star essence? Lu Yin was curious. Although Shamrock Enterprises had businesses all over the fifth mainland and could be considered a commercial power, they should not have been able to surpass the Innerverse 8 great flow zones by that much. The Blaze Realm only had 500 million star essence, the Day-Night clan had 1.7 billion and the Sylvan Dragon clan had 3.5 billion star essence. How could Shamrock Enterprises have so many star essence? Right when the sixth mainland had invaded, the Innerverse had been heavily damaged, and the 8 great flow zones had all been forced to relocate. The loss of resources had been immeasurable, and the star essence that had been transported on that transport ship had all belonged to the Innerverse. A considerable portion of it had belonged to the 8 great flow zones. Lu Yin had also heard from the Blaze Realm's elders that if not for the sixth mainland's invasion, the Blaze Realm would not have had so few star essence. The Innerverse had been heavily damaged, but Shamrock Enterprises had not. The outside world was located in the Neoverse Glory Realm, so the sixth mainland would not have been able to invade. More importantly, Shamrock Enterprises had been sending out resources to research astral origin pills on the surface, just like how Aurora Corporation had been researching microarrays. However, astral origin pills did not need to be researched at all, as they had been created by Yi Wang himself. This meant that the resources sent to research astral origin pills had all gone into Yi Wang's own pockets, and over time they had accumulated so much. If Aurora Corporation had accumulated all of their microarray research resources, it would definitely have far exceeded this amount. Chairman Ji had offered 80 billion star essence back then. These Neoverse behemoths were each richer than the last, and Lu Yin was looking forward to seeing just how much money the Mavis family had. They couldn't be counting in trillions, could they? They were the banks of the entire universe and they controlled the fifth mainland's economy. Lu Yin swallowed and shook his head, not wanting to think about the Mavis family. He could not rob them, so it was better for him to collect all of the resources here. Aside from the star essence, there were also countless pills, all sorts of power vessels and foreign objects. His next step was to head to the Cosmic Sea and supervise the construction of the fifth tower. There he could cultivate in peace and focus on rolling his die. He should also be able to merge with the cultivators in the astral tree. These resources were enough for him to squander. After the Great Eastern Alliance announced the construction of the fifth pagoda to the public, as well as the blueprint, countless cultivators had already set out in order to become the first batch to challenge the fifth pagoda and obtain the inheritance. Even though the fifth pagoda had yet to be constructed, no one suspected that the Great Eastern Alliance was faking this because they had the Hall of Honor as their guarantor. At this moment, a storm was brewing in Universe Ocean. Universe Ocean had never been a peaceful place to begin with. Now, with countless people heading there, Universe Ocean would become the liveliest and bloodiest training ground in the entire fifth mainland. Even the sixth mainland would send countless people to sneak in. The fifth tower was built between Leon's armada and the army, which was equivalent to the center of Universe Ocean. It was a place called Ocean Abyss. Ocean Abyss, also known as the Eye of the Sea, was the largest whirlpool in the entire Universe Ocean. The entire sea region was a whirlpool with a huge black hole in the center that swallowed seawater. Even after countless years, it was still full. No one knew where the seawater went. It was common knowledge in Universe Ocean that people did not understand what was going on in the nearby sea abyss. This was because there was nothing of value in the sea abyss, and if one was not careful enough, one would be swallowed up and not even a corpse would be left behind. Even though Ocean Abyss had once been the Mastiff Squadron's territory, they had never gone there before. When Lu Yin had ridden the Arcane Arrow crew to Leon's armada, they had avoided Ocean Abyss. It was not that they were not confident that they could cross Ocean Abyss, but rather that there was no need for them to do so. That huge black hole was especially terrifying. Countless people were heading there from all over Universe Ocean. Many of them were pirates who were in charge of transporting construction materials. The Great Eastern Alliance was responsible for a portion of the construction of the Fifth Tower, while the Hall of Honor was also responsible for a portion. Leon's armada was the one who had contributed the most. Several regions away from Ocean Abyss, the Arcane Arrow crew was resting on a deserted island. The ground was moist and covered in underwater plants. This was a newly formed island. Captain, with the Great Eastern Alliance's actions, various powers have gathered in Universe Ocean. We can't be as carefree as before. Who knows, we might run into some top-notch expert, someone said in distress. That's right, Captain. I think we should keep a low profile, someone else agreed. Someone else retorted, no matter how powerful those outside are, they have to listen to us once they're in Universe Ocean. Without us, they wouldn't even be able to find Ocean Abyss. The Universe Ocean's climate is terrible, and even the Hall of Honor is asking for help from us. Forget it. That's only because there aren't any top-notch experts. Any random emissary can traverse Universe Ocean. Do you think emissaries are explorers? That they can come out at any time? That depends on when. There are too many inheritances in the Fifth Tower. Aside from Lu Yin's inheritance, there's also the Hall of Honor, the Sword Sect, the Neoverse Sirius Sect, the Seven Courts, and so on. Who wouldn't be tempted? That's true. We can threaten those ordinary cultivators, but those who dare to fight for the inheritances are all disciples of great powers. We can't afford to offend them. Captain, should we guard Ocean Abyss for now and be the first batch to enter the Fifth Tower? Someone was tempted. It was not just one person who was tempted, as Captain Dirk was also tempted. Although the rules for entering the Fifth Tower had yet to be announced, Enlighters should be able to enter. As for emissaries, that had nothing to do with him. As long as an Enlighter could enter, then he might be able to obtain Lu Yin's inheritance. He thought back to the final battle of the Sovereign Tournament, where Lu Yin had single-handedly defeated everyone. Lu Yin's invincible bearing and supreme demeanor, especially that transformation, was something that he dreamed of. He had to obtain the inheritance. Captain Dirk's eyes lit up, and he looked in the direction of Ocean Abyss. There's no need to rush. The Fifth Tower hasn't been built yet. Once it's built, the rules will be announced and we'll see how we can enter. If possible, my Arcane Arrow crew will definitely be the first to enter. Yes, Captain. Everything else aside, the Mavis Bank has provided us with a lot of resources. If we can obtain those resources, this trip won't have been in vain. Captain, we'll definitely obtain the inheritance. Captain, you must obtain the inheritance. The Arcane Arrow crew's vice-captain Hai Dalu fell into deep thought. He had interacted with Lu Yin before, and while he had a bottom line, he didn't seem like a selfless person. Why was he doing this? He couldn't figure it out, and no one could. He wasn't the only one who understood Lu Yin. Elder Chan did as well. But the more he understood, the more he couldn't see through Lu Yin's motives. What would he gain by doing this? Was it really as he had said? Would he have a better chance against those corpse kings? Increasing the overall strength of the human race? Aside from the four tyrants, there were also many smaller groups in the Cosmic Sea. The most representative of them all was the unyielding battle crew. Xianxia sat cross-legged at the bottom of the sea and looked in the direction of Ocean Abyss. He had to go to the Fifth Tower. It was impossible for him to compete with Lu Yin, but if he could obtain some inheritance, it would improve his situation in the Cosmic Sea and prevent him from being swallowed up at any time. Your height is already unreachable. Xianxia sighed. He wasn't referring to Lu Yin's strength, but rather his breadth of mind. He was willing to increase the strength of the entire human race, which wasn't something that just anyone could do. Many people had obtained great strength but kept it a secret. It was human nature to be selfish. Xianxia admired Lu Yin for being so selfless and giving everything he had. Lu Yin had also come here through the burial gate, and before he left he had advised Xianxia to either destroy the gate or leave. Xianxia had listened and left the burial gate. Not long after, the gate was destroyed and the group guarding it was completely annihilated. If not for Lu Yin's reminder, the unyielding battle crew would have been annihilated. Lu Yin, I owe you my life. The unyielding battle crew owes you my life, Xianxia muttered to himself. I hope to repay this favor in the future. This was the ocean abyss, located at the center of the cosmic sea, and it was constantly swallowing up endless seawater. The closer one got to the ocean abyss, the more one would feel like they were being swallowed. To the west of the ocean abyss, many warships were anchored, led by Leon's armada. It was like a giant that was eyeing the ocean abyss covetously. These warships belonged to Leon's armada. On the deck, Sister Fei and Inzi were looking at the ocean abyss. What do you think little Seven is doing? Inzi rolled his eyes. How would I know, but it's definitely not as selfless as he says. Are you sure? Sister Fei was surprised. Inzi smiled brightly and winked. Because he's from Leon's armada. Sister Fei was disgusted. Stop winking at me. Is my handsomeness affecting you now? Inzi shouted exaggeratedly. Sister Fei was speechless. The ghost doctor walked out from behind them, her back hunched as if she would collapse at any moment. When the two saw the ghost doctor, their expressions changed. Not only did they respect her, but they also feared her. This old woman's strength was second only to Lu Feng's, but her methods were far more vicious. She was an expert at using underhanded methods. Little Seven built the 5th pagoda for the sake of the 5th mainland. He's different from us, so you should learn from him, the ghost doctor slowly said in a strange, hoarse voice. Inzi smiled. I know, I'm just kidding. With a splash, the merfolk from the merfolk battle group charged into the sea and headed for the ocean abyss. The ocean abyss seemed terrifying, but as long as one was strong enough, they could still swim out. It was not a dangerous place. Ghost Doctor, what are we waiting for? Did the captain say anything? Sister Fei asked. The ghost doctor walked to the edge of the deck and looked into the ocean abyss. We're waiting for someone. Who? The two asked curiously. The ghost doctor solemnly replied, someone who can change the ocean abyss and build the foundation for the 5th pagoda. Isn't it the captain? Sister Fei was surprised. The ghost doctor shook her head. The captain can do it, but he's not sincere enough. The 5th pagoda represents the will of the 5th mainland. It can't be a half-ancestor, right? Inzi exclaimed. The ghost doctor looked at him. He guessed right. Chapter 1971. The two of them looked at each other in shock. Although they belonged to Leon's armada and were backed by the Long Sky Island, they had never seen a half-martial ancestor before. Although they said that they had the support of a half-martial ancestor, it was just a rumor. They had never expected to see a half-martial ancestor. They didn't expect Xiaoqi to be able to invite a half-ancestor to help build the 5th pagoda. Just as the ghost doctor had said, if the 5th pagoda was to be built, it had to be built from the beginning to the end. There was nothing more dazzling and convincing than a half-martial ancestor laying down the foundation, especially when this half-martial ancestor was none other than Elder Chan. Elder Chan was not only a half-ancestor but also the master of the Hall of Honor. His identity and status meant that the 5th pagoda would be extraordinary. Once the foundation was laid, the 5th pagoda would be recognized by the Hall of Honor and become the symbol of the 5th continent. At this moment, Leon's armada was waiting for Elder Chan to lay the foundation with its 7 subordinate regiments and countless battleships. Once the foundation was laid, they would start building the 5th pagoda. It's a pity that Lu Feng is trapped in Burial Garden and can't come out. Otherwise, we would have been able to see a half-ancestor. What a pity. The ghost doctor said, everyone has their own fate. Perhaps Lu Feng had a fortuitous encounter in Burial Garden. Half a day later, Heizage Leon walked out with a tyrant blade in hand and looked at the abyss. At this moment, everyone outside the abyss looked over. Someone had appeared in the sky. It was an elder, and it was Elder Chan. Elder Chan stood in the starry sky and looked down at the cosmic sea. He opened his hand as if he wanted to grab the entire abyss. As his palm fell, the universe trembled. For everyone who saw it, they could only see the universe. This universe was trembling, and the abyss whirlpool gradually slowed down. Immediately after, soil appeared in the distant starry sky. Elder Chan pulled it over and landed in the center of the abyss whirlpool, which was the opening that swallowed the seawater. More and more soil appeared, gradually forming a continent that lay across the starry sky. The entire new universe was connected by soil. Legend had it that this was the soil of the fifth continent that had collapsed. Countless cultivators in the new universe had cultivated on this soil. It was said that only then could one become a half-ancestor. Soil was very important to the fifth continent, and the foundation of the fifth pagoda was this soil. Elder Chan used his great power to pull the soil from the new universe to lay the foundation for the abyss. He gradually filled up the opening of the abyss, forming a huge continent. When Elder Zen stopped, the soil miraculously returned to the new universe. The soil that had already been laid down in the sea abyss solidified and became the massive foundation of the fifth pagoda that countless people could see. The abyssal vortex appeared once more, but this time the seawater was unable to be swallowed up. When it reached the end of the vortex, it would strike the foundation of the fifth pagoda, forming an irregular flow of water. Whether it was in terms of speed or power, it was far greater than before. The atmosphere of the ocean abyss was completely changed. Countless people were shocked. This was the power of a half-ancestor, able to change the weather with a single move. Heizij Leon narrowed his eyes. Half-martial ancestor was an unreachable realm. However, he firmly believed that he would be able to reach it one day. With that thought in mind, he looked at the foundation and waved his hand. "Little ones, let's go." Leon's armada cheered, but it wasn't because of the construction of the fifth pagoda. They weren't so kind-hearted, nor were they so righteous that they wanted to increase the strength of everyone in the fifth mainland. They were cheering because the Great Eastern Alliance had specifically mentioned to them that they would have priority in entering the fifth pagoda. As for the members of Leon's armada and his own people from the Great Eastern Alliance, Lu Yin naturally would not mistreat them, and he even made some of his battle techniques transparent. The fifth tower has him. He did want to improve the human race's strength so that they wouldn't be as passive against the Eternals as the Astral Tree. At this moment, Lu Yin had already left Shamrock Enterprise's main world. He had eliminated the Leaf King and obtained a huge amount of resources. Most importantly, he had also seen the dawn of cultivating as an emissary. The more he looked at the sapling, the more he liked it, and he couldn't help but tease it. The sapling grew even happier, and it kept jumping on Lu Yin's shoulder as if it was dancing on its own. If only it could talk, Lu Yin sighed. He hadn't forgotten about the Astral Source pill. If the Leaf King could sense and control the pill, then the sapling should be able to as well. However, he didn't know how to describe the sapling. Before leaving, he saw the list of seeds that Shamrock Enterprises had given him, and he marveled at the Leaf King's brilliant methods. There were more than 1,000 seeds on the list, and they were all cultivators with extraordinary innate gifts. For example, Dark Void's innate gift was Void Explosion. Many of the hidden seeds were in the various great powers. Lu Yin handed the list to Wang Wen, who could indirectly control these seeds by controlling Shamrock Enterprises. It was similar to how Wei Rong had spies in the various great powers. Taking over Shamrock Enterprises would mean taking over their many years of planning, which would be of great help to the future. Following this, Lu Yin would focus on supervising the construction of the fifth pagoda, and if necessary he could even help with the construction. He believed that the various great powers of the fifth mainland were already preparing to head to the Cosmic Sea. Once the fifth pagoda opened, they would immediately rush in to snatch the inheritance. He had to do this before the cosmic tree of the starry sky entered the fifth mainland. Otherwise, if the cosmic tree of the starry sky hunted him down and forced the fifth mainland to isolate him, then his plans would be exposed. The second Night King's expression turned ugly as he lifted his spacecraft and headed towards the Cosmic Sea. He quickly left the Glory Realm and entered the Neoverse Northlands. Above Lu Yin's head, the sapling hopped about as he looked at the sky, thinking about how to attract more people to the fifth pagoda. Right, should I build a contribution platform? According to the records of contribution value, it should be placed next to the fifth pagoda. Whoever had the highest contribution would have the highest name. For many people who cared about their reputation, the fifth pagoda would be preserved forever unless the fifth mainland was destroyed. The list would also be preserved forever, and it would be a good opportunity to leave one's name in history. The more Lu Yin thought about it, the more he felt that it made sense and he couldn't help but tell Wang when to take care of it. The contribution platform was too old-fashioned, so he had to come up with a better name. Just as he was thinking about this, Lu Yin suddenly saw a familiar figure in the corner of his eye, but when he looked again, it had already disappeared. The second Night King was too fast and he had directly pierced through space. Stop. Lu Yin hurriedly told the second Night King to stop. Return to the space we just passed through. The second Night King didn't understand, but he still did as he was told. As for the second Night King, Lu Yin didn't know if he had truly been trapped or if he had done so on purpose. However, the timing of his escape had been too coincidental. It had been right when the Leaf King was about to escape. Regardless of whether or not the second Night King had intentionally been trapped, Lu Yin would never trust him. Once he found someone who could replace the second Night King, or if Lu Yin's own strength surpassed the second Night King's, there would be no need for the second Night King to worry about him anymore. The second Night King brought Lu Yin back to the space they had just passed through. Lu Yin looked towards the south. Chase after them. The second Night King slowed down and carried his spacecraft south. In the blink of an eye, they saw a flying spacecraft. It was extremely fast and it had a strange design that was probably custom-made. What attracted Lu Yin's attention wasn't the spacecraft, but rather the person lying on top of it, Xianxia. Lu Yin blinked. Capture the guy who stole my spacecraft. The second Night King vanished. Xianxia gritted his teeth, his face filled with rage. He had rarely felt so sullen in his life. He had been traveling through space and had even decided to go to the world mountains to see if he could meet a fated person. Who would have thought that this spacecraft would suddenly crash into him? He had wanted to dodge, but he had inexplicably divined that it would be a good thing if he was hit, so he didn't move. However, the spacecraft did not hesitate to ram into him, almost breaking his waist. Fortunately, he had grabbed onto the spacecraft at the critical moment and refused to let go. Trying to run after crashing into someone? What a joke. He was Xianxia, Starsabil's grandpa Gio. When had he ever suffered such a loss? Was it over after being hit by someone? Impossible. Xianxia had wanted to use force to intimidate the person in the spacecraft, but then he recalled the results of his divination and decided to let nature take its course. Perhaps this spacecraft would take him to a good place. The results of his divination had been a good thing, a very good thing. He rubbed his waist as he took out his signboard. No matter where he was, he could not lose his signboard. Just as he was thinking about where the spacecraft would take him, the world spun and space suddenly changed. The spacecraft was gone, the signboard was gone, and he was being picked up like a chick. Xianxia was stunned. What was the meaning of this? Where was he? What was he doing? He slowly looked up and saw an expressionless face. His mouth fell open. The second Night King? The second Night King lowered his head, surprised that this person actually knew him. Long time no see, Xianxia. A familiar voice sounded from behind him. Xianxia's hair stood on end, and he slowly turned around with a smile that was uglier than crying. Lu Yin. If not for the fact that he was being held down, Xianxia would have slapped himself. How could this be a good thing? This was clearly the worst thing that could have happened. He had actually bumped into a plague like Lu Yin. It was over. His involvement with fate had deepened. This was an inauspicious person, an extremely inauspicious one. He had never thought that he would one day be tricked by himself. When it came to divination, good things could turn into bad things. Thus he had a bad reputation in this line of work, but he still enjoyed it. He had never thought that he would encounter such a situation. Lu Yin was very happy to have bumped into Xianxia. He had previously thought that Xianxia was a fraud, and that was what others had told him as well. However, ever since this guy had spat out blood when he had divined Lu Yin's family, Lu Yin's opinion of him had changed. The man seemed to have some skill, and when he had visited the Starsabil sect, he had learned that Xianxia indeed possessed the Xiantian mirror. However, it seemed to work only occasionally. Lu Yin had started to value the man, and he had even invited him to be the state tutor during the sovereign tournament. However, the position that Xianxia had coveted had been given up on. The last time they had contacted each other was at a fort in the Ross Empire, where they had talked about a very mysterious topic: inauspiciousness and fate. Lu Yin desperately wanted to find the Starsabil sect so that they could help him divine some things. He could not find the Starsabil sect, but meeting Xianxia was fate. The universe was vast and he had actually bumped into Xianxia. Lu Yin felt that his luck was heaven-defying. Xianxia also felt that his luck was heaven-defying, and his expression became even more miserable. Lu Yin, what a coincidence. Hurry up and tell the second Night King to release me. I have an urgent matter. One of my grandsons owes me money and is on the run. I have to capture him and bring him back. I'll visit you when I have time. Chapter 1972. Lu Yin blinked. The people from that spacecraft? Xianxia hurriedly nodded. That's right. He pretended to be indignant. That bastard didn't pay for his divination and even used a spacecraft to hit me. How despicable. Quick, Lu Yin, tell the second Night King to let me go, I'm going after him. Lu Yin replied, no need, that spacecraft belongs to the Radiance Realm. I recognize the symbol, it's someone from the Yang era. I'll contact them and help you find out who it is. Xianxia's expression changed. Don't, Lu Yin, you don't understand. It's taboo for others to interfere with divination. I'll go myself. Can you do it? That's the Radiance Realm, and the Yang era has a power level of over 700,000. Forget it, I'll help you. Don't worry, we're friends, the very good kind. Lu Yin smiled warmly. Xianxia was about to cry. Don't do anything rash, Lu Yin. Don't get involved with me, I'm begging you. Let me go, I really don't want to have anything to do with you. Can we just pretend we never met? Lu Yin pursed his lips. That's your fault. We're old friends, so just tell me if you've offended me and I'll apologize. There's no need to disown me. Xianxia was bitter. I made it clear last time that anyone who comes into contact with you will be unlucky. Your future will be miserable, very miserable. You're an inauspicious person and you're too deeply involved with fate. He took a few steps forward and stared at Lu Yin, speaking very seriously. I even vomited blood because I told you that. Lu Yin was speechless. What does that have to do with me? That's because fate caused me to vomit blood. You must have attracted fate's attention, Xianxia shouted through gritted teeth. Lu Yin's heart skipped a beat as he recalled what had happened in Astral 10. The Star Master had also guessed that he might have triggered fate. Could it be because of that? Let me go, Lu Yin. Just pretend we never met, Xianxia begged. He was truly afraid, and the more he understood fate, the more terrified he became. Lu Yin could see the fear in Xianxia's eyes and sighed. You're my friend. If my future is really that miserable, won't you help me? Xianxia was helpless. I can't help you. Otherwise, I wouldn't have tried to run away as soon as I saw you. The last time we spoke, you said that even if I didn't give you the fates, and I shouldn't give it to Starsabil either. Some people aren't what they seem on the surface. How do you explain that? Xianxia was stunned. Did I say something like that? Yes, Lu Yin replied. Xianxia shook his head. You must have remembered wrongly. I definitely didn't say anything like that. I'm Starsabil's grandpa Gio. How could a grandfather harm his granddaughter? Lu Yin was speechless. This guy really did think of himself as a grandfather. Either you explain yourself or don't even think about leaving. I'm very happy to be reunited with an old friend, and maybe you can help me calculate my family or something. Xianxia's body trembled at the mention of this, and a long-lost fear filled his heart. He glared at Lu Yin. Don't threaten me, I don't count. Lu Yin placed a hand on Xianxia's shoulder. It's not up to you to decide whether a friend counts or not. Xianxia's face twitched, and he stared at Lu Yin for a while before finally lowering his head helplessly. I should know you better. Nothing good ever happens when I see you. Kid, you built the 5th pagoda to benefit billions and it should make your future less miserable, but your personality is still as vile as ever. Lu Yin's eyes lit up. What did you say? Building the 5th pagoda will make my future less miserable? Xianxia looked in the direction of the cosmic sea. Zhaiquan replied, people talk about karma, but what exactly is karma? Who would be able to calculate the karma? It's too mysterious. In the eyes of ordinary people, whatever you do, you get what you want. That's karma. You once united the inner verse and outer verse, realized your ambitions and eliminated powerful enemies. You were very powerful, but you were not kind or righteous. When you fell from grace, who would help you? Xianxia looked at Lu Yin. But the current you is different. The 5th pagoda has shown the entire 5th mainland your righteousness. Even if you fall into trouble in the future, there will be many people who will help you, and that will subtly offset your calamity. You divined this. Lu Yin was surprised. Xianxia shook his head. There's no need for divination. A person who benefits humanity will be helped by others. Kindness is relative. I don't know the true reason for building the fifth pagoda, but what you do will be repaid in the future. After saying some mysterious words, Xianxia turned around and wanted to leave. However, he was mercilessly dragged back by the second Night King. He had an ugly expression as he looked at the second Night King. Your future will be miserable. The second Night King's eyes flashed fiercely, scaring Xianxia so much that his legs trembled. He cursed himself for having such a cheap mouth, but then he revealed a smile that was uglier than a crying face. Lu Yin sized up Xianxia. He didn't know if this guy was lying or not, but it seemed that building the fifth pagoda had more uses than he had imagined. Educating and nurturing people was a good thing, and Elder Chan was willing to help lay the foundation for the fifth pagoda. To a certain extent, he had acknowledged that Lu Yin's status had been elevated by the fifth pagoda. Before this, Lu Yin had been worried that the outer verse would be massacred, so he had taken the initiative to take over the fight against the astral beast domain. This had allowed Elder Chan to resolve the grudge against Lu Xiaoshuan's identity. Humans had to be kind, and just as Xianxia had said, kindness was relative. Of course, Lu Yin would not change his mind about his enemies, and he would kill those who deserved to be killed. However, these past few experiences had given him a sense of righteousness, and he would do his best to achieve his goals as long as it was within his capabilities. Regardless of whether Xianxia was telling the truth or not, Lu Yin just wanted to live up to his conscience. You still haven't answered my question. What did you mean by that? Lu Yin stared at Xianxia. Xianxia's mouth twitched. You heard wrong. I already said that if you don't answer this question, then don't even think about leaving, Lu Yin said. He then smiled. You also said that my future isn't that miserable, so following me isn't that bad, right? You said it yourself. That's right. Xianxia was miserable. That's one thing. I don't want to interact with you, but more importantly, I don't want to be tainted by fate. Fate is the most terrifying thing. More terrifying than my death god's inheritance? Lu Yin retorted. Xianxia sighed. You don't understand, and neither do I. However, only those in my line of work understand the terror of fate. How should I put it? The death god is a battle force, but fate is a force that can't be avoided. It can't be considered a battle, but it can still be considered a battle. Lu Yin did not understand. I'll say it again. Don't even think about leaving if you don't explain yourself. Xianxia was helpless. Right, I'll explain. He let out a long sigh, and under Lu Yin's curious gaze he asked, Do you know why I left the Starsibil sect? Chased away, Lu Yin answered subconsciously. Xianxia glared at him. I left on my own. There's something wrong with the Starsibil sect. What's the problem? Lu Yin asked solemnly. Xianxia replied, I don't know either, but I know that they've always had a goal, to come into contact with fate. Lu Yin raised a brow, but he did not interrupt. Xianxia frowned. The more we work in this line of work, the more we fear fate. No one can say for sure if the forefathers' fate truly exists. Starsibil probably mentioned it to you before, but she doesn't believe in fate. He paused for a moment before continuing. Actually, the Starsibil sect believes in fate the most. Just like how the seven courts inherited their inheritances from various progenitors, the Starsibil sect believes that they inherit fate, which is very dangerous. Xianxia looked at Lu Yin seriously. Fate is an extremely dangerous existence. If you're not careful, you'll be finished. Don't you touch fate with your own divinations? Lu Yin was puzzled. Xianxia rolled his eyes. When have I ever divined accurately? Lu Yin was stumped. There was nothing wrong with this statement, but it sounded strange no matter how he thought about it. Where's my signboard? Xianxia suddenly thought of something and looked around angrily. It's gone again. You still haven't told me why you told me to be wary of Starsibil. Xianxia replied, They claim to be fate's inheritors and you have fates, and what do you think? Lu Yin understood, as this was similar to the death god's inheritance that he had with the Spectre clan. Even though the Spectre clan seemed to have submitted to him on the surface and made him their king, Lu Yin did not believe that the Spectre clan, which had developed for so many years, would recognize an outsider like him as their king. If the Starsibil sect claimed to be fate's inheritors, then Lu Yin had so much fates in on him, and he had even touched fate before. In their eyes he was just like the death god's inheritance to the Spectre clan. Xianxia raised his head. Don't overthink it. I don't know what the Starsibil sect's goal is. If I knew, would I still be alive? He looked at Lu Yin. I've said everything that needs to be said. Let me go and we won't see each other again in this lifetime. Lu Yin's lips curled up. It wasn't easy for us to run into each other and you want to leave just like that? Xianxio's jaw dropped and then he grew angry. Lu Yin, you said that you would let me go. Kid, don't go back on your word. Be careful that Grandpa Jiu doesn't curse you to die a horrible death. Lu Yin put an arm around Xianxio's shoulder. Don't say that. Help me calculate a place and we'll leave once we're done. Xianxio glared at Lu Yin. Don't try to trick me. You don't want to leave. Lu Yin raised a brow. Xianxio's heart sank and he sighed deeply. He had no choice but to listen to Lu Yin. Where is it? Hurry up and tell me. There are some places that I can't calculate. If you want me to calculate your future wife, you can try. Lu Yin raised a hand and used his star energy to draw in the void. He drew the place where Xiaji had captured him and the giant pillars. Help me calculate where this is. Xianxio looked at it. What for? When Xiaji captured me, he brought me here. Lu Yin didn't try to hide anything from him. Xianxio was astonished. A half-ancestor from the Seven Courts? He's actually connected to the home of the gods. The home of the gods. Lu Yin was shocked. Xianxio nodded. This is a trial platform in the home of the gods. Don't you know about it? Lu Yin stared at the drawing he had drawn. Are you sure? Xianxio replied, I've been there before. Each pillar is huge and it's like a continent. Each pillar produces a different trial, right? Lu Yin was puzzled. The trial platform was a very common place that could easily be exposed. Xiaji wouldn't have captured him and brought him there unless he wasn't afraid of being exposed. But if he wasn't, then he wouldn't have knocked Lu Yin unconscious and left him in the cosmic sea. It was obvious that he didn't want anyone to know about his connection to the home of the gods. In fact, according to normal logic, Xiaji shouldn't have exposed his connection to the home of the gods. Chapter 1973. Are you sure it's the trial platform of the home of the gods? Lu Yin asked again. Xianxio grumbled, definitely. Let's do a divination. Xianxio was speechless and glared at Lu Yin. You still don't believe me? Lu Yin replied, Xiaji shouldn't have exposed his relationship with the home of the gods so easily. Even if they were related, he's not that stupid. He wouldn't have captured me and brought me to a place that would be easily exposed. Xianxio understood. You misunderstood. This trial platform is different from the others. It's only open to emissaries. Lu Yin didn't understand. Xianxio explained, the biggest difference between the Neoverse and the Innerverse is that it's not that difficult to produce emissaries. Every sect has a trial platform specially prepared for them. The Sirius sect, Everlasting Island, and the Hall of Honor all have them, and the Home of the Gods is no exception. Although it's not that difficult to produce emissaries, that's only relatively speaking. Even a colossus like the Home of the Gods only has a few emissaries, so not everyone has seen the trial platform before. If it weren't for a coincidence, I wouldn't have seen it either. You wouldn't have been able to find out even if you wanted to. Lu Yin understood. The Innerverse emissaries were absolute experts, and even the Sword sect only had 2. It was impossible for them to have a trial platform specially prepared for them. However, the Neoverse was different. The home of the gods had nearly 5 emissaries, and it was impossible for them to have a trial platform specially prepared for them. Furthermore, Xiaji hadn't expected to be injured by Lu Yin's counterattack and even escape the trial platform. With the power of a half-ancestor, it was easy for him to trap Lu Yin within a trial platform. As long as he didn't escape the platform, Lu Yin wouldn't have known that it was a pillar. Xiaji had actually been very cautious. If it had been any other arrogant half-ancestor, they would have locked Lu Yin in their own backyard. The question was, what was Xiaji's relationship with the home of the gods? If Xiaji could capture Lu Yin and bring him to the home of the gods, it meant that he was very familiar with the place. Could one of his clones be a high-ranking member of the home of the gods? However, he couldn't rule out the possibility that Xiaji would randomly find a place to interrogate him. Given his abilities as a half-ancestor, he could go anywhere he wanted. However, this would contradict the fact that Xiaji had knocked him unconscious and left him in the cosmic sea. If Xiaji had simply found a random place, he would not have cared if Luo Yunyang found out that he was in the home of gods. He would have even been happy to let Luo Yunyang face off against the home of gods. However, since he had knocked Luo Yunyang out and thrown him into Universe Ocean, it meant that he did not want Luo Yunyang to discover that it was the home of gods. This was the most suspicious point. It was very likely that Xiaji had a clone in the home of the gods. Regardless of whether or not Xiaji's clone was hidden in the home of the gods, Lu Yin still had to make a trip there. At the very least, he wanted to take a look at this trial platform and test it out. That's right, I've been planning to go to the home of the gods for a long time. This trip to the Neoverse has finally been resolved. The 7 courts, the Mavis family, the Aurora Corporation, and the Sirius sect had all been visited, so the home of the gods would not make much of a difference. Not only were there clues that he wanted to investigate there, but there were also ruins from the rune technology civilization. Furthermore, the home of the gods had invited him many times. Seems like you have quite a few enemies in the Neoverse. The 7 courts, a half-ancestor, and the home of the gods. Your path won't be easy. Xianxia sighed. He recalled his previous divination that Lu Yin had even more hidden enemies, but it seemed like there weren't enough of them. Lu Yin felt helpless. Yeah, the path won't be easy, so I need a friend to help me. Xianxia grew cautious. I'm leaving. Leaving? Lu Yin was confused. Xianxia's face twitched. You said it yourself, so I'll help you find a place. Now I'm telling you that it's the home of the gods. You won't go back on your word, right? Lu Yin smiled and put his arm around Xianxia's shoulder again. You said it yourself. I was just looking for a place. Look, you didn't even do it. Xianxia was stunned. You can do that? Lu Yin was very serious. I asked you to help me find a place. You told me the place, but you didn't. You only fulfilled half of the conditions. Xianxia bellowed. Brat, you're messing with me. Why do you care if I did it or not? I just found the place for you, so don't go overboard. Lu Yin shrugged. Let's not talk about whether or not you were right about the place. Even if it wasn't something that was divined. All right, Grandpa Jiu will help you with the divination and confirm it for you. Xianxia grew anxious and was about to attack when Lu Yin grabbed his wrist. Don't be so anxious. We're all friends, so don't treat me like an outsider. It's not like I don't trust you. I just want to see the Xiantian mirror. How about this? I won't make things difficult for you. Just help me find a word. I just want to see it. Xianxia couldn't move as Lu Yin grabbed his wrist. He stared at Lu Yin in bewilderment. The word? I'm sure. Lu Yin nodded. Just one word. You've fulfilled half of the conditions for me to let you go. Since that's the case, the other half is simple. Xianxia felt that something was off, but he couldn't find anything wrong with it. It was just one word, so what could it be? This word can't be related to any powerhouses such as primeval surnames, Qin, or talismans. Nothing can be related, Xianxia said, staring at Lu Yin. He was afraid that Lu Yin would ask him to find a progenitor. That would be bad luck. Lu Yin immediately agreed. All right, it won't be related to anyone. I just want to see the Xiantian mirror. That's easy. I'll just let you see my divination. It'll definitely be more interesting than divination, Xianxia said. Lu Yin refused. What kind of fortune teller does his own divination? Are you trying to trick me? Xianxia was helpless. If you just want to see the Xiantian mirror, I'll show it to you. I want to write my own words, Lu Yin said stubbornly. What word? Xianxia asked helplessly. He had a feeling that things wouldn't be that easy. Lu Yin wrote a word in the sky. Xianxia looked at it and frantically tried to recall which powerhouse this word was related to. It didn't seem like there was any powerhouse with Shuo in their name. Even if there was someone with Shuo in their name, Xianxia couldn't recall it, so they weren't powerhouses. Right, the boss of the home of the gods seemed to be the candle god, but they sounded the same and had different words. Could it be someone from the distant past that Xianxia couldn't find? Xianxia kept trying to recall, afraid that Lu Yin had tricked him. Lu Yin was very calm and his expression was calm. Xianxia stared at him. What does this word mean? What does it mean? Lu Yin was confused. Xianxia's eyes narrowed. Change it. Lu Yin was annoyed. You're the one who's messing with me right now. People just read whatever word comes to mind and you're asking me to change it? Then it won't work. I understand. This word, I won't change it. Xianxia's eyes flashed. Lu Yin were so familiar with each other. Don't try to trick me. Divination isn't a small matter. I'll ask you again. What does this word mean? Lu Yin seriously answered. It doesn't. I just thought of it. Really? Really? I don't believe you. Lu Yin was speechless. Aren't you tired? The second Night King was tired just watching from the side. In a nearby spacecraft, the sapling was leaning against the window looking like it wanted to come out. Xianxia gulped. That can't be the Grim Reaper's name, right? Lu Yin was shocked. The Grim Reaper's name has the word, turbid, in it? I don't know, Xianxia replied. Lu Yin sighed. It's fine if you don't want to. Come with me to the home of the gods and then to the cosmic sea. I'll look for you when I think of something. Xianxia gritted his teeth. Fine, I'll do it. But let me remind you that divination isn't a small matter. When I tried to read your family, I vomited blood and couldn't recover for a year. I don't want any accidents to happen with this word. Lu Yin pursed his lips. I just thought of a random word. If anything happens, it has nothing to do with me. Xianxia sighed. Move aside. Lu Yin and the second Night King retreated and watched Xianxia read the word, turbid, with apprehension. Did this word have anything to do with powerhouses? There was an answer, but it wasn't a name. It was a plan by the Eternals. Mr. Mu had been investigating this plan all this time, but he hadn't been able to find anything. If Lu Yin's guess wasn't wrong, then even the 7 sky gods might not be aware of this plan. Otherwise, Mr. Mu would have a clue. How strong was Mr. Mu? How strong was the person who had set up this plan? It was possible that he surpassed the average progenitor. Lu Yin stared at Xianxia's frail body. Old man, you're working hard. Xianxia was already being very cautious. He recalled everything he knew about the word, turbid, before divining and confirmed that this word had nothing to do with any powerhouses. Only then did he attempt the divination. Furthermore, he didn't try to read the word directly. Instead, he used the Xiantian mirror to revolve around the word. It was just a test, but then he vomited blood and collapsed. Lu Yin was shocked and hurriedly went up to support him. Xianxia's face was as white as a sheet, and his body was constantly trembling. His eyes were filled with fear and the surface of his body was visibly cracking. It was as if an unimaginable power had descended upon him. Lu Yin and the second Night King were shocked as they hadn't sensed any power at all. What had happened to Xianxia? Xianxia had lost more than half of his blood and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Xianxia. Lu Yin shouted as he fed Xianxia pills. The second Night King's eyes flickered, but he hadn't sensed anything. Suddenly, a chill surged up from the soles of his feet and he couldn't help but gulp. Xianxia only had a single breath left, and he continued to struggle for his life. After a while he finally stopped trembling, and his originally unfocused eyes gradually returned to normal. His gaze was filled with intense fear and despair. Is this? Lu Yin's tone was low. I'm sorry I've harmed you. Xianxia blinked and stared blankly at Lu Yin. He was at first at a loss, but then he was filled with intense anger. He dragged out his weak and hoarse voice as he cursed, You trash. You've harmed me. You've harmed me. Lu Yin looked at him apologetically. I'm sorry. Xianxia continuously retreated until he was beside the spacecraft. He glared at Lu Yin with blood dripping from the corners of his mouth. You've harmed me. Do you know what just happened? I came into contact with an unimaginable power. That power isn't something that you or I can understand. Fortunately, I was careful and didn't use the Xiantian mirror to read it. Otherwise, I would already be dead. Chapter 1974. The words were very ordinary, and even an ignorant child would have seen them when they were learning to read. However, the mystic sky mirror's divination was clearly related to this word, which was related to Mr. Mu's investigation of the Eternals' conspiracy. I just thought of it, Lu Yin said guiltily. Xianxia roared, You're still lying to me, you idiot. You'll get me killed one day. I'm leaving and I won't see you again in this life. He then supported himself against the spacecraft and was about to stand up when he came face to face with the sapling. Xianxia stared blankly at the sapling, which was also facing him. For a moment he did not move. It was only when the sapling jumped up that Xianxia came back to his senses. He looked back at Lu Yin and pointed at the spacecraft. What's that? Lu Yin walked over to Xianxia. Sorry, I didn't expect this. But what did you divine? Xianxia wiped the blood off his face. I told you, unimaginable power. I couldn't divine anything and I was almost destroyed. He then looked at Lu Yin solemnly. I don't care where you heard this word or why you tried to divine it, but I'll give you a word of advice. Don't touch it ever. This isn't something you can touch. Now I know why you're an inauspicious person. You're related to destiny, and this power is definitely not below destinies. You even have the death god's inheritance. Kid, I'm not joking. He was heavily injured, but he endured his injuries and continued to flee. He wanted to get as far away from Lu Yin as possible. This time Lu Yin did not stop him. He truly did feel apologetic towards Xianxia, and Xianxia's words had made him wary. Project Chaos was related to the Eternals and Mr. Mu, so it was not something he could touch upon right now. However, he would not give up on investigating. Mr. Mu had been so serious, and Xianxia had also said that the word divination involved boundless power. The situation was very serious, and it might even affect the fate of the entire human race. Lu Yin would not be a savior, but if something happened to the human race, then what was the point of his existence? The second Night King looked at Lu Yin strangely. He had only said one word, but Xianxia had actually spat out blood. It was too strange. At that moment, a cosmic ring flew over from afar. Lu Yin caught it and casually retrieved a drop of Xianxia's blood from outer space. He opened it, revealing 3 grains of fates and a slip of paper. I'm out of stock. I only have 3 grains of fates, and then I'll give them all to you. Don't come looking for me in the future. We don't know each other, so let's not meet again in this lifetime. Lu Yin put away the fates, and as it seemed that Xianxia was being serious. Xianxia had tried to think of a way to obtain the fates and from Lu Yin, and now Xianxia had directly given the fates and to Lu Yin because he did not want Lu Yin to look for Xianxia again in the future. To him, the significance of fates and was different from that of others. It seemed that the turbid divination had truly frightened him. Will we not meet in this lifetime? Far away, Xianxia was coughing up blood continuously. He had finally found a planet to stop at, but after some thought he decided to continue running. That bastard wouldn't chase after him, right? How unlucky. He had actually screwed himself over. The divination was clearly a good thing, but he had ended up in such a miserable state. He had even lost his fates and, however, this was also good. Now he had completely severed his connection with fate, and that good for nothing. Xianxia panicked when he thought about the word he had just divined. That power was unimaginable, and he had not known that such a terrifying power existed in the universe. He would never meet that good-for-nothing again in this lifetime. Because of Xianxia's episode, Lu Yin felt that the bright future of the 5th pagoda was once again shrouded in haze. The good news was that the 5th pagoda seemed to bring him unexpected benefits. In ancient times, someone had created the Daoist sect, and now he had built the 5th pagoda. Many years from now, would these two events be discussed together? Lu Yin was looking forward to it. The sapling hopped around on his shoulder, and Lu Yin took out Mount Supreme. He then brought the sapling inside and found Xianxia. For the time being, he did not bring the sapling back with him. He would let it follow Xianxia for now since he only trusted her. Xianxia looked at the sapling in surprise as it hid behind Lu Yin. Is this a moving tree? Lu Yin was not afraid that Xianxia would guess the sapling's identity, as it was impossible. It was too inconceivable. Who would have thought that this sapling was actually the mother tree? He suddenly thought of a problem. If the sapling could move, then what about the mother tree? Help me take care of it for a while. Lu Yin carried the sapling out and passed it to Xianxia. This scene was filled with a strange warmth. Xianxia did not accept it. Why do you need me to take care of it? Are you going to die? Lu Yin replied, of course not, but I need to go into seclusion for a while. The sapling's branches wrapped tightly around Lu Yin's fingers, and its green leaves glowed with a hazy halo. Xianxia liked it as well, but she had a cold personality, so she ignored Lu Yin after taking the sapling. Lu Yin put away Mount Supreme as they arrived at the home of the gods. They had originally been in the north and were not far from the home of the gods. With the second Night King's speed, they arrived in the blink of an eye. When Lu Yin arrived at the home of the gods under the second Night King's lead, he was stunned by the scene he saw. The home of the gods was built on the backs of gigantic humanoid statues. Each of the statues was kneeling on the ground with pious expressions on their faces. On their backs were mountains, rivers, and earth. Rainbows hung in the sky, misty clouds, and the sound of bells rang out. There were all kinds of beautiful and sacred beasts that Lu Yin had never seen before. This was simply a paradise in the heavens. No wonder it was called the home of the gods. It was crazy. Outsiders' attitude towards the home of the gods was that they were crazy. The cultivators here were arrogant and conceited, thinking that they could create something out of nothing. They proclaimed themselves as gods, and even the younger generation had 18 full celestial gods, which was annoying. Lu Yin originally did not feel much about this. Tai God had given him a decent impression, but the closer he got to the home of the gods, the stronger this feeling became. This feeling was especially strong when he saw the people kneeling on the ground and kowtowing to the home of the gods. Here the most common action he saw was kneeling. From the gigantic humanoid statues in the distance to the countless people kneeling in front of him, it was clear that there was a hierarchy in this place, and it was not an ordinary hierarchy. The people kneeling had the same pious expressions as the humanoid statues. They were kneeling as if they were really gods, but they were just disciples of the home of the gods. Even a Lemaitre disciple had many people kneeling, and that disciple's face was filled with pride and satisfaction. Lu Yin did not like this feeling. He was sure that any random disciple of the home of the gods could make these people willingly die. It was no wonder why outsiders treated the home of the gods as crazy. Anyone who grew up in such an environment would be proud and look down on everything. Now that he thought about it, Tai God was already very humble. That Yao Hong he saw in Sky-bearing City was the normal disciple of the home of the gods. Now that he thought about it, that wind god was even more abnormal. What do you think the home of the gods is like? Lu Yin spoke to the second Night King. The second Night King replied, just like that. You've been here before? The second Night King nodded. Back then my Day-Night clan wanted to enter the Neoverse under the first Night King's leadership. We visited the behemoths of the Neoverse, and the home of the gods was one of them. However, we couldn't even enter the door. They simply looked down on outsiders. Lu Yin nodded. The Aeon Evolution scripture was an incomparably mysterious power created by the rune progenitor. It could create something out of nothing and turn reality into nothingness. With such a mysterious technique, it was not impossible to call someone a god. This was especially true for ordinary people. Even ordinary cultivators would be attracted by the various mysterious techniques of the home of the gods and call them gods. After a long time, it was easy to understand why the home of the gods had become like this. Knock on the door. This time I'll take you in, Lu Yin said. The second Night King was a calm person, but when he heard this he could not help but retort. Why would he need someone to take him in? There was no one in the home of the gods who could deal with him. The ripples spread out and quickly swept past the home of the gods. The ordinary disciples did not sense it, but the mirror god suddenly stood up with a serious expression. He was an absolute expert. He thought about it and took a step forward. At the same time, the wind god also sensed it and walked out of space. The entire home of the gods changed in an instant, and Lu Yin could vaguely sense some sort of danger that surprised him. The home of the gods still had some foundation, but he did not know if the candle god, who had been in seclusion for many years and had never left the home of the gods, was still alive. It was said that he was in existence second only to a half-ancestor, and with the Aeon Evolution scripture he might be able to challenge a half-ancestor like Qing Ping had. In front of him 2 figures walked out of the void. They were the mirror god and the wind god. When they saw that it was Lu Yin, they relaxed. The mirror god chuckled. So it's Alliance Master Lu. Why didn't you tell us in advance so that we could have been prepared? Lu Yin smiled. I was just passing by and wanted to take a look. The mirror god smiled. It's our honor to have Alliance Master Lu here in the home of the gods. Alliance Master Lu, please. With that, all of the disciples in the home of the gods slowly bowed in Lu Yin's direction. Lu Yin was stunned. The wind god said, "This is the etiquette for an esteemed guest. Throughout the history of the home of the gods, this etiquette has rarely been used." Lu Yin replied, "You're too courteous." The home of the gods was being so courteous to Lu Yin because they wanted to know the location of the statue. They were even more courteous than the 7 courts. Although these people were arrogant and conceited to outsiders, they would submit very quickly if someone was even more ruthless than them. They weren't truly crazy. The second Night King's eyes flickered. Back when the first Night King had brought him, the third Night King and the White King to visit the home of the gods, they hadn't even been able to enter. This wasn't because they weren't strong enough, but rather because the first Night King had expressed that the home of the gods didn't welcome them to the Neoverse. Now Lu Yin's Great Eastern Alliance had also expressed that they would enter the Neoverse, but the home of the gods' attitude was completely different from when they had first met them. In the end, the difference in power was just too great. Back then, the Daoist clan had been far less powerful than the Great Eastern Alliance. The disciples of the home of the gods bowed in Lu Yin's direction, while the ordinary people who had been kowtowing to the disciples changed their direction and kowtowed to Lu Yin's group. Lu Yin looked down at the world as countless people bowed to him. This feeling of being high up in the air could easily make one lose themselves. Let's go. I've admired the home of the gods for a long time, Lu Yin said to the mirror god, unmoved by the people's worship. The mirror god's eyes flashed. Alliance Master Lu, please. Lu Yin nodded and did not stand on ceremony as he stepped into the home of the gods. Thank you for your support, brothers. The next chapter is about to begin. The clash of ancient and modern. Who will be king? Thank you for your support, brothers. Chapter 1975. Senior Mirror God, are these giants part of the giant bloodline? Lu Yin was curious. Mirror God replied, of course not, the average giant isn't that big. These are just giants that we created using rune lines and they have symbolic meaning. They have nothing to do with the giant bloodline. Lu Yin looked at the kneeling giants that carried the home of the gods on their backs. Every face is different. That's right, the giants are symbolic and the faces of these giants were once great enemies of the home of the gods. Every enemy that was killed would transform into a giant and carry the home of the gods on their backs to atone for their sins. They would only be released after a certain number of years, or they would be replaced by an even greater sinner. Lu Yin frowned as he thought about the Lu family's general appointment platform. The Lu family's general appointment platform had been used to select enemies for battle, not to humiliate them. At least Lu Yin didn't. No matter how deep the hatred was, there was no need for that. However, the home of the gods had truly humiliated their enemies, and their only goal was to humiliate them. It was no wonder why outsiders called them lunatics. If one day I accidentally become enemies with the home of the gods and get killed, will I end up like these people? Lu Yin asked with a smile. Mirror God was startled and hurriedly explained, Alliance Master Lu, please don't misunderstand. How could you and the home of the gods be enemies? Regardless of your relationship with Tai God, I've met Alliance Master Lu several times and admire you greatly. We are not enemies now and we won't be enemies in the future. Lu Yin smiled. Senior, you're being too serious. I was just joking. Lu Yin saw the face of one of the giants. That's annihilation? Mirror God followed Lu Yin's gaze and his expression sank. That's right, that's annihilation. The home of the gods raised that traitor and taught him how to cultivate, but he didn't show any gratitude and even tried to invade the candle god's seclusion grounds to spy on his cultivation. This traitor will bear his sins for eternity and he will never be forgiven. I heard that the candle god has been in seclusion for a very long time. I really want to meet him. I heard that this senior is of the same generation as Elder Chan and the others, and he's probably in seclusion to break through to half-ancestor, Lu Yin said. The group then stepped onto a piece of land on the back of one of the giants. A dazzling palace floated in front of them, and all creatures that they had never seen before could be seen flying about. These creatures had a special characteristic, which was that they were full of holiness like a picture scroll. The home of the gods vividly displayed the ethereal and merciless nature of the immortal realm. Wind God led the way. Tai God and many other higher-ups of the home of the gods were already waiting for them. The 18 celestial deities, including Yao Hong, stood at the very back with her head bowed. At the mention of the candle god, the mirror god said regretfully, in front of Alliance Lord Lu, there's nothing we can hide in the home of the gods, so I'll be frank with you. He paused for a moment, then said seriously, it's too difficult to become a half-martial ancestor by cultivating the Ian derivation true scripture. The candle god is in seclusion all year round because he wants to break through to the half-martial ancestor realm. However, there hasn't been any news from him even now, so we don't know what's going on with him. Lu Yin's eyes flashed. Not dead? It was widely rumored that the candle god was dead. Of course, the home of the gods would never admit such a thing. It was precisely because of the candle god's existence that the home of the gods was a colossus in the Neoverse. Otherwise, with the mirror god's 700,000 combat power, how could it defend the home of the gods? No matter how miraculous the Book of Eternity evolution was, it could not have done so. It's very difficult to break through to the half-martial ancestor realm while cultivating the true scripture of Ian evolution? Lu Yin asked. The mirror god led Lu Yin towards the main hall of the home of the gods as he explained, it's extremely difficult. If you just cultivate the Ian derivation true scripture, then don't even think about breaking through to the half-martial ancestor realm. Even breaking through to the half-martial ancestor realm is as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Only the candle god has managed to do so in the home of the gods, and he has cultivated to a level that's second only to a half-martial ancestor. In other words, he's an 8th origin tribulation realm cultivator. However, breaking through to the half-martial ancestor realm is far too difficult. According to our research on the ruins of the rune technology civilization, it might be related to the rune progenitor. When the rune progenitor was still around, the rune technology civilization was at its peak and gave birth to many experts. However, the rune progenitor is no longer around. Although cultivating the Ian derivation true scripture is miraculous, it's still missing something. Lu Yin's eyes turned into runes as he looked in front of him. There were strange creatures and dazzling palaces. Everything was formed from runes, and it was like a strange runic world. These runes could change at will, causing the buildings, the mountains, the earth, and even the creatures to change into different forms. The palaces could transform into mountains, water could transform into flames, and creatures could transform into white clouds. This was the home of the gods. Alliance Lord Lu, is the Ian derivation true scripture within the 5th tower? The mirror god asked. Lu Yin was helpless. I want to, but unfortunately I don't know how. I cultivated the Ian derivation true scripture and opened my eyes with the help of the Astral Combat Academy's Sky platform. I admire Alliance Lord Lu. The establishment of the 5th tower has benefited the entire human race. Alliance Lord Lu is selfless and has not joined our home of the gods in terms of innate talent. Your cultivation of the Ian derivation true scripture has already reached the knower realm. Even though Tai Yixing has been researching the ruins of the rune technology civilization for many years and has our guidance, he's only on par with Alliance Lord Lu, the mirror god said. His words were vague, but they were easy to understand. He wanted to use the ruins of the rune technology civilization to exchange for the statue's location. When it comes to cultivating the Ian derivation true scripture, Coco he is the most talented. He's the first genius of our generation to display the knower realm. The mirror god's expression turned ugly. It's all because of traitors. That traitor Ember stole a great treasure from the home of the gods, which allowed Coco he to cultivate. Otherwise, Tai Yixing greets Alliance Lord Lu. Qin Guangshan greets Alliance Lord Lu. Xiao Bai greets Alliance Lord Lu. Feng Huashen. The 18 celestial gods were the younger generation's geniuses in the home of the gods. The older generation's powerhouses were envoys like the Mirror God, Violet God and Wind God. The Enlighters in the middle had a lower status than the 18 celestial gods. Lu Yin had done his research and found that there were 18 celestial gods in every generation, but only a few stood out in the end. For example, Wind God was the only one who stood out among the 18 celestial gods of a certain generation. Lu Yin smiled. There's no need to be so polite. Brother Tai Yixing, we haven't seen each other in a long time. Tai Yixing looked up at Lu Yin and smiled bitterly. Alliance Lord Lu, you're walking too fast. I can't keep up. Lu Yin had a good impression of Tai Yixing. No matter what the outside world said, Tai Yixing had never acted like a lunatic in front of Lu Yin and had even helped him. It was Tai Yixing who had told Lu Yin about the Liu family that had allowed Lu Yin to uncover Xiaji's scheme, which had led to the war in the Cosmic Sea. During the war in the Cosmic Sea, it was also Lu Yin who had led Tai Yixing to the home of the gods. I'm here now, aren't I? Brother Tai Yixing, are you free to show me around the home of the gods? Lu Yin smiled. Tai Yixing glanced at Mirror God, who nodded subtly. Tai Yixing walked out and smiled. As long as Alliance Lord Lu doesn't mind, I'm willing. In the back, Yao Hong's head was still lowered. Her original arrogance, that insufferably arrogance now towered up into the sky. Her arrogance had disappeared. The Wind God had slapped her in front of Lu Yin, and after returning to the home of the gods, she had received quite a bit of punishment. Even Tai Yixin, who had been close to her, had become indifferent, and all of this was because of Lu Yin. It was only then that she realized who she had offended. That person was bigger than the heavens. At this moment she was different from before. She regretted not working hard in her cultivation and her arrogance, but at the same time she was worried that Lu Yin would settle the score with her. However, she was overthinking things as Lu Yin had long since forgotten about her. With Tai Yixing accompanying him, Mirror God exchanged a few pleasantries with Lu Yin before leaving to entertain the second Night King. Compared to him, Tai Yixing was more suitable to interact with Lu Yin. Wind God also left. However, one person followed him. It was Xiao Bai, a lively and cute girl who was closest to Tai Yixing. When he saw Xiao Bai following him, Tai Yixing scolded, "What are you doing here? Go back." Xiao Bai stuck out her tongue and pleaded, "Brother Tai Yixing, let me follow you. I also want to get closer to Alliance Lord Lu." Tai Yixing glared at her. "Go back. Don't ruin Alliance Lord Lu's mood." Xiao Bai felt wronged and looked at Lu Yin. Lu Yin smiled. "If you want to come, then come. She's a girl and she's so pretty. At least she's prettier than you." Tai Yixing smiled bitterly and warned Xiao Bai, "Don't talk nonsense." Xiao Bai was delighted. "Okay, don't worry." She then looked at Lu Yin and smiled. "Brother Lu, I'll show you around. Tai Yixing doesn't know much about this place, but I'm different. I've been to many places." "I told you not to talk nonsense," Tai Yixing scolded again. Lu Yin replied, "It's fine, Brother Tai Yixing. You're too serious. This isn't like you back then. Gu Xiao Air mentioned that you were going to introduce Xiao Bai to him." Tai Yixing's expression changed. Xiao Bai narrowed her eyes and stared at Tai Yixing. Her tone turned sinister. "Brother Tai Yixing, is what Brother Lu said true? You actually thought of introducing me to that idiot Gu Xiao Air?" Tai Yixing felt awkward. "I drank too much and spoke nonsense. Don't mind it. If you have the ability, introduce me to Brother Lu." Xiao Bai rolled her eyes. Lu Yin was speechless. Why did she mention him? As Lu Yin's status and strength increased, his former friends and acquaintances gradually changed their attitudes towards him. Fortunately, a joke made the atmosphere much more relaxed, and with Xiao Bai around, Tai Yixing gradually relaxed. He also started to address Lu Yin as Brother Lu instead of Alliance Lord Lu. Lu Yin didn't care what Tai Yixing called him. In essence, he also wanted to have friends and not be tied down by benefits. After thinking about it, although he didn't have many friends, he had many relatives. Leon's Armada, Wendy Yushan, Brother Hui Kong, Senior Brother Referee, and so on. He wasn't alone. Xiao Bai was an exception among the 18 gods. She didn't have the arrogance of the others and was essentially a lively girl. She brought Lu Yin and Tai Yixing around the home of the gods and was very happy. "Seems like there aren't many guests in the home of the gods," Lu Yin said as he watched Xiao Bai cheerfully introduce something. Tai Yixing nodded. "Brother Lu, you know how outsiders view us. Many people don't like the atmosphere in the home of the gods." Lu Yin pointed at his feet. This scared off many people, but no one dares to offend the home of the gods.